This episode of Watch Out for Fireballs is brought to you by our many patrons, very generous, life-changing patrons at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. If you'd like to join them, that's $5 a month to get bonus episodes of this. It's any amount a month, but $5 gets you the good stuff. We'd like to thank some of our patrons. Patrons like Charlotte Doomgirl, Ryan McBride, Aaron D., Ryan and Stephanie Pitts. That's one line. They've get together with your friends, patronize together. And then Jake Fortier. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you. And if you like our stuff, consider joining them. Thanks. My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
You're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week, the first week of Horror Month, we are talking about Devotion, which is a first-person horror game developed and published by Red Candle Games for the PC in 2019.
Yeah. This is Cool Month, which is fine. Like, not complaining about everything.
I presented many options.
You did present many options. They just many options. But this is, nobody. This is rare. We don't often have a month without listener sponsored episodes. That hasn't happened since we started doing this, I don't think. So these are all cool jams, which is good. Like generally, I think that these bottom out as interesting this month. Like, I'm not super crazy about Strangeland, which is next week's. This is amazing, and Evil Within 2 is fun.
Yeah.
But it's worth segueing into that. This being the amazing, if out of any of them, if you were going to play them first, this is short. You want to support the devs, and it's worth experiencing rather than experiencing it secondhand, I think.
Yes. It's $17. You go to redcandlegames.com. You get it DRM free. It is no longer banned outside of China. So, the controversy over this game has generated way more press than the actual game itself. And you might think, oh, they're covering this lost relic. It was lost for a time. Now it is readily available for you. The money goes directly to the developer. It is possibly one of the most direct exchanges of money for value that you're going to get in indie games.
Yeah, which always feels great.
Yes.
And I'm really excited to talk about it because I don't want to, the story behind what happened in this game is very interesting, but I don't want to let the game get swallowed up in that. I think it's a bummer of, kind of a failing on games journalism's part. Like there are reviews, people did look at this, but it really quickly overshadowed the content of it. And it's much more snackable and bite-sized as a unit of information. It's more clicky, but the content of this is more remarkable to me artistically than the story of just China did some human rights violation shit and censored things, and it's that just kind of that happens.
Yeah, it's gonna happen is the thing.
Sometimes it do be like that,
yeah. And this is probably one of my favorite games. In terms of, games can be many different things. And this is pretty mechanics light, but as far as an interactive encapsulation for a story, an audiovisual presentation kind of deal, this is fucking stellar. I played it the first time. I was blown away, continued to be blown away the second time, mostly because of how well put together it is with foreshadowing leading up to what's going on, This is a dish that just gets richer and richer, I think.
Yeah, it's really good. Like there are a couple of tiny minor things.
I wish you walked faster.
I wish you walked faster. I think some of the jump scares are inappropriate, like don't unnecessary. Like they don't. They're not horrible or anything. They just kind of come at a place where I'm like, this didn't really need to be here. Like I understand wanting to spice this up. Here, but this works so much better as a creeping horror.
Yes.
To me, it's great. So play it. It's really good. I don't think that you will regret it.
Yes. Also, we're telling you to play it, and mandating that you play it because we want to feel free to talk about spoilers and provide our analysis without being coy boys. Because I think that a lot of this stuff is a little bit more rich if you take yourself out of the linear path of playing it and talk about the way themes build, and you can't talk about build without considering where it goes, right?
It's a mystery. Like the game is a mystery, presents as a mystery as you're playing it, as you slowly put these things together. But they lay a lot of track that we want to admire how it's laid.
Yes. Yeah. So spoiler wall here.
Yeah. Not that we typically do too much spoiler light stuff on Wolf, but this is it usually doesn't matter.
Right.
Here's a game where it matters. So this takes place in 1980s Taiwan. You play as the father of a family named Feng Yu, and you are trying to figure out where your daughter Mai Xin is. Mai Xin. Let's get that clear now.
It is Mai Xin.
Mei Xin. Okay, I had it.
Mei Xin. Yes.
Mei Xin. And you're trying to figure that out, or at least what happened to her, like where she is or what happened.
Yes. To do this, you do walking sim and simple adventure game stuff, going to different versions of your apartment that correspond with 4 different time periods, 4 different years, 1980, 1985, 1986, and 1987.
Yes. If you are familiar with psychological horror, you may have clocked what happened to your daughter.
Yep. You are trying to deny what happened to your daughter.
This is one of those things. There's an accidental theme to this month of trying to do Silent Hill 2 again, and this is the only game I think that does it.
Yep.
Like as well. The other 2 games, I think Strangeland's a failure in that respect, and I think that The Evil Within 2 gets in its way but has other things to recommend it. Psychological horror games constantly trying to redo Silent Hill 2.
Yes.
It is such a touchstone. I was thinking about that with this month, like doing these back to back. Like I really would like psychological horror to get a new trick. I'm a little sick of exploring dream spaces that are actually your daughter's funeral or whatever.
Yeah. That is a little bit of an accident. Like even looking at the options that I kind of laid out, like, hey, here's good stuff that I streamed that I think would bear talking about. Right. There is psychological horror that breaks out of it, but Silent Hill 2 is absolutely the touch point. And I think that, I don't know, maybe the fact that when Silent Hill steered away from that, like the harder it steered away, the less successful it got, because that corresponded with gameplay fall off, just kind of made it like this has to be the template from which this is cut forever. Yeah.
It ends up being like a weird, like very narrow casted genre at this point. Like there are games that, so much a psychological horror game that isn't about exploring your daughter's funeral in a metaphorical dreamscape, but it's so common. And the reason why I bring that up now is because this justifies that commonality. Like when I realize that my character knows the answer to what the mystery is, but they're in self-denial, like that is a cool trope. It is, to me, it's dying, it's on life support as a trope. I roll my eyes a little bit at that just because it's ancient, it's as old as the hills. If you were like me and you were put off by that cliche at this point, or starting to become put off by it, this is this could very well be the swan song of that cliche to me. Like this is, the apotheosis of that. It does it as well as Silent Hill 2.
Right. This is as good as it has gotten since Silent Hill 2 came out. Like it is in the running right now with, I'm a leathery skeleton with spider for hands, but you may know me by the name Depression.
Like, horror movies used to be about a fucked up little guy, and now they're about somebody in a $5 million a month apartment in New York running away from the 7 stages of grief.
Yep.
Or whatever that tweet is.
Yeah. Hello, I am generational trauma.
Yeah.
Welcome to hell.
Yeah. It's like, that stuff is good. How, like, man, the saturation can ruin anything.
Yep.
Because that stuff is the best. And then it just like, now it's so, like, I just roll my eyes a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah. It'll be nice to compare and contrast, right? I
also want to point out to you, like, again, just setting expectations. I guess we're still kind of in the getting people to play it section, but I'm trying to address Gary's in the audience who might be put off by these things. This is, you're exploring a mindscape and you know the answer and everything. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I really love about Devotion is the story as told. Like, so the way the story is told is really, really key and artful and perfect and should not change. Mm-hmm. The actual story is really interesting and does not fall into cliche on its own.
It's incredibly heartbreaking and fucked up.
Yes.
Even without the kind of filigree of the horror and jump scare and atmosphere, right?
And my favorite things do that. Like, my favorite things work both. Like, I like a metaphorical, heady, symbol-rich journey, but I want it to function as a story as well. I think that the best things do double duty. Mm-hmm. The actual narrative of this is absolutely heartrendingly good.
Yeah,
I think. Like, it hits a lot of things, and it doesn't hit things that have just been hit repeatedly forever.
Yeah.
There are archetypes in this, but they're really well developed, and I
teared up watching the ending, so I couldn't take notes. And then when I went to YouTube to, finish out the outline, I also teared up.
It's fucking sad.
Yeah.
It's a sad game. And, I always go back to that, like, very, very, I've mentioned this before, but Robert Ashley, the games journalist, when he started his podcast, he wanted people to send in gamer stories. And he said, funny is better than smart, sad is better than, funny is better than smart, sad is better than funny.
Yes.
Like, when you're telling a story. And, like, I think about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if, this is a walking sim, so there's not much you're going to be doing mechanically. If you played one of these, you know what you do. You wander around. You have one inventory object at a time. You stick it in the one place it can go.
You can have multiple inventory things.
No, I was exaggerating for effect. Like, it's very simple. There's no puzzle content to that.
Right.
You are just picking up a key to keep your hands vaguely engaged while you get this interactive story.
Yes.
That is told through the environment, walking around, checking out these details.
Yeah, you find notes. There's a journal where they're kept, in case you want to go back and look for something, but it's not terribly complicated what's going on. This kind of game, it lives and dies based on its signaling, like, what you don't want to do is be like, all right, well, nothing is happening, so I guess I will just walk through every room again and see if something is different, That is death. I fucking hate that. I've run into it so much in streaming.
Yeah.
It's the worst feeling in the world. Devotion, it meets the challenge really well. The signaling in this is about as good as it gets, both through sound design and by visual design, using light and motion to draw you to points of interest. This is about as good as it gets.
I agree with the two. I have two minor niggles in this entire game. Like, my two grumpynesses. One is that I think that some of the jump scares are inappropriate. But two, the other one is that there's a section of this game where you have to complete all the rooms basically, and you wander between the different time zones. I ended up in a situation there a couple times where I was like waiting through some loading screens to get to a room because you'd get something in one room that you'd use in another room. And sometimes the connection was very obvious and sometimes it wasn't.
Gotcha.
So I ended up spending a little bit of time doing that thing, but it's limited.
Yeah.
It does it. I would agree that it does it well. But I think there's a little bit of that stuff. It's not frustrating and it's not excessive.
Yes. Yeah. That's it's worth saying the depth on this goes real low.
Yeah.
like it can get bad. Play Conarium or something like that.
Yeah. 100%. And that shit sucks.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The game's real linear except for that middle portion, which I was down with. The middle portion, great stuff happened in it. The actual play of it was my least favorite part.
Yeah.
Again, not a big deal, but just waiting for loading screens, going from apartment to apartment, remembering which year with kind of the visual, like what was going on in that apartment.
Yes. Yeah.
And that could be just my own brain thing, like the way that I only really understand relative time. I don't really understand time as a number.
Yeah.
Like before and after, not number and number.
It would be a little bit better if they said age 8, age 9, age 7, age 1.
Yeah.
To me, that would more clarify it, because Mei Xin is kind of the everything revolves around her in this. The fact that you're going through different time periods also means that there's like time travel puzzles. You'll will restore something in one apartment so that the one in the later time period will have changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to, puzzle is a real strong word for anything you do in this game. Like you will click the one thing you can click in one apartment, which will change and make the one thing you can click in another apartment appear.
Yeah.
It's real minor. So I just want to set that expectation. It's not Day of the Tentacle or what have you.
Right.
It doesn't matter though, because again, in addition to the narrative just being like incredible, the game is scary as hell. It's super scary.
Yep.
And sometimes that comes up through those jump scares, which I don't love. Sometimes it's you go into a room and there's some mannequins sitting on a table and they're uncanny. Or sometimes it's the feeling of like, I'm looking at a family portrait that was done, but for some reason the father's head is just out of frame in a way that nobody would ever take a portrait.
Yep.
That's weird. Like that's unsettling in a way that reaches past your brain. And gets to your lizard brain. Like it's a real spooky game.
Yes. Yeah. Incredible imagery, horrifying details, things that get better when you go back to it, understanding that this is pointing to the truth, just tons of amazing set pieces. One thing that happens in that nonlinear section is there will be just kind of like little incidental scenes that happen when you return to the hub, to the lobby that's in between. And those are always, again, just every detail is heartbreaking because nothing good happens in this game.
No.
But those are always surreal and good. Like the window hanging in the air, showing you a scene from one side, and then it's just brick wall on the other.
Yeah. Good. A lot of cool space stuff that didn't take a lot of budget.
Right.
Like very inventive use of the medium. For that kind of thing.
So last warning, if you don't want the actual detail of where the story goes spoiled, we were a little bit soft there before, but we're serious now. So out you go. Devotion, we said the story is heartbreaking enough on its own. The father, the person that you play with, mistreats his wife and pushes his daughter into becoming a child star singer so the family can be prosperous again. And she develops terrible anxiety, a psychiatric condition that he denies, and thus denies her proper treatment for.
Yes. There are some elements of this that cultural relativism will make, like being aware of those will help this go down. So one of the things is the stigma against mental health treatment.
It's
not that
really
that doesn't exist now,
or over here. Yeah. It is. But
it's nothing over here compared, is my understanding.
Yeah.
Anything I say about Taiwan that is wrong is ignorance. There's no malice. But my understanding in the research that I was able to do is that that is a much bigger stigma over there. So over here, we might say like, hey, yeah, go to a psychologist. Here, over there, at the time would not be what you would do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your protagonist in this, the tragedy, like I feel like all, many great tragedies, you are victimizer and victim. In this, it's not like you suck. The dad in this family sucks. But also it's the end of Chernobyl. Like, yeah, the people were fucking incompetent, but it's not entirely their fault.
Right. Yeah. Because they existed in a context that kind of was there to predate on them.
Yes, exactly. Like the way that even if you are, and a simpler version of the story would be, what about an overbearing father who just tried to, make his daughter be successful to bring his family back. Like that's a story.
Yep.
But the way this twists the knife is saying, okay, that moral failing and crapulence and short-sightedness opens the door to people who like demons, like people who are way worse.
Yes.
Like when you are when you have those faults, it's not just that you have them and they do the harm that they do. You are now bait.
Mm-hmm.
Like no.
Something will come in, and that vulnerability, is going to destroy everybody around you through you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So instead of you turning to medicine, their character basically falls into a cult.
Turns to medicine for a time. Instead of turning to mental health, like turning to therapy, basically.
Yeah. It turns to this cult leader, Mentor Hugh, who convinced him that she and her god, this Sigu Guanyin, can cure Mei Xin and make them rich.
Yes. And this ends up killing the daughter.
Yep.
She dies in a very tragic way. A way that like you can viscerally kind of imagine, and makes a lot of the details about yelling and stuff coming from a certain room in the apartment and stuff super tragic.
Yep.
There. So your character is trying to learn it, but also you're denying it. Silent Hill 2 stuff.
Yeah.
That's not my favorite part of this. What ends up working is that there is this like story and atmosphere to this that are specific, to Taiwan and East Asia that bypass like cultural relativism.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm trying to think of a way to express this. So like sometimes a story will require me to have a value that I don't have, and I can end up intellectually understanding it, but it can't touch my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So like Sekiro is a good example of that.
Yes.
There are things about like loyalty to the master and loyalty to your father and stuff that all just seems silly to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get that is important in that culture. So the story will make sense in terms of the character's actions making sense, but I can't get past the fact that it just seems silly to act like a simp for a master. Like, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this game is full of things that I don't relate to, like things like that mental health stigma, apparently like these kind of cults are really huge in Taiwan, specifically because of, tragedies that befell Taiwan, things like that. That is also something I cannot relate to, but I think the reason why this is a defter piece of writing than say Sekiro is that, knowing those things is additive, but not knowing them is not subtractive.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It's the same basic story that happens with Tim Heidecker, Tom Cruise Jr., and Dr. San.
That's exactly it. It's Dr. San. I was just like, Dr. Master Hugh, you Dr. San motherfucker. And you get to play as Tom Cruise Heidecker Jr. like a little bit, which is great. But you know what I mean, right? Like the there's not a bar for entry. Like the fact that playing this as, and I understand this is incredibly like Western lens, but that's the lens I have, right?
Uh-huh.
And so and most of our audience does as well. Playing this, coming from my cultural background and it being so immersed in another cultural background, learning those things did not feel like fun trivia. Like it didn't feel like an opportunity to learn. It felt like immensely additive to the actual, like all of the details that are used in the culture are supportive of the story and make the heart hit harder.
Yeah. And also like you see the non-harmful and like culturally joyous parts of this.
Yeah.
Before that happens, the small little altar to the god of theater and arts, right? Like, cool. That was there until it was replaced. The party that they throw.
Fish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that fish is tragic.
No, I know the fish is tragic, but it is joyous for a time. Or before you know its origins, like all fish,
and what happens
before you know the provenance of it.
Yeah,
it seems joyous, but it's a cultural thing, that
Yeah. Just so like all of the cultural specificity here, I think, does elevate this above just a general psychological horror thing. But again, like the thing that is devastating about this is universal. Right.
Yes.
And, a version of this does happen in lots of cultures, right? Look at the evangelical response to COVID, right? I don't need a vaccine because I've got Jesus in my blood, right?
Yeah. Christian Scientists,
Yes.
This happens now.
Yeah.
In a super sad version. Another way that the kind of cultural difference affects the experience of playing this game, at least for me, and this is not something I'm proud of, it's just the case, is that some of these things that were trivial but were different than how I might expect lended a sense of unease to things and increased my sense of interest. And what I mean by that is, like, my head palace version of an apartment in the 80s is very different.
Yeah.
Does not have these things. So when I would see these certain things that were probably, that were very standard, then it would at turns feel a little bit uncanny. It put me, made me discomforted, which made me pay more attention.
Yeah.
I would be really curious as to what how this experience is different on kind of both ways it could swing for somebody who is native to Taiwan.
Yes.
That's a fascinating thing. I would love to read about that.
Yeah. I have no idea like what the name for that even would be, but yeah.
And it's not, being kind of set on edge because things are a little bit different isn't great. Like I want to be, and I like to think of myself as being more open-minded than that. But again, my deep lizard brain is like, oh, this isn't how living rooms look. Like this isn't what you do with a kitchen.
Well, to bring a little bit more dimension to that, the fact that this is in the context of something that is supposed to be a horror product, this is one unit of horror, please, makes the unpredictability of that, it activates it in a different way, where if you were watching a non-horror story that took place in some of these spaces, that unpredictability would not actually really be a factor in it. You would just find different stuff to focus on or think about, right?
And certainly wouldn't be additive.
Yeah.
In either the way of increasing like a sense of unease, even inappropriately, even unintentionally, or making me pay attention to things I wouldn't ordinarily pay attention to. Like, it has the effect that very few things fade into the backdrop.
Yeah.
Because it's not, again, my mental like mind palace version of a apartment in the 80s. Everything is worth paying attention to because I cannot differentiate on first glance what is important horror game set pieces and what is this other culture. So I'm forced to kind of pay equal attention to both.
There's also the element of, so this family, the mother is a famous movie star who retires after she gets married, as is common over there. And a screenwriter, the father, the screenwriter, is not, like he hits a slump and starts being unable to sell scripts. But still at the beginning, you think, okay, like that should be relatively prosperous. It is difficult to tell looking at this apartment if that is, if this is the kind of apartment that you could get with that kind of, with that kind of status. Yeah.
Until you leave the apartment and there are more signifiers of shabbiness.
Yes.
That would happen. But I had no idea, so I don't think that's part of the intended effect. And people can be mad at me if they want to for not like learning more before going into the game. What I'm trying to say is that going into it with that ignorance was not subtractive, and in a lot of places was additive.
Yeah. What you don't want to do is exoticize, or just fall prey to some kind of, Orientalism, to it.
Yes.
And you also don't want to be the American couples on House Hunters International, which is like, why is this so small?
Yeah. I'm trying to avoid that. And I feel like it's, there's not really a way that we get out of this episode without somebody online telling us that, but like it's fine.
It's I'm trying to be self-aware about it.
Yeah, me too. That's what so it's not just these kind of like cultural elements or these religious elements, but this family dynamic This idea of like a family role, the breadwinner, the person who, the status is hung up upon here. And it's not, despite being banned, it's not a political game. It is more of a culturally critical game. This is about, as we mentioned, kind of faith healing, cults. These kind of, and this is a huge thing in Taiwan still. Small religious cults that kind of have these guardians or patron deities and take your money. This is huge in Taiwan due to like very, very permissive freedom of expression laws after the atrocities and such that they went through.
Yeah. It's just it is a bad thing. Those charlatans, taking advantage of folks. Yeah,
charlatan. The psychic surgery shit in Man on the Moon, or basically any kind of medium stuff. Like my intro way into before I got sick of it, but like the whole skeptosphere of like podcasts and stuff like that, which I was susceptible to in my early 20s before I started finding it a little bit annoying, despite agreeing with a lot of their stuff, was through disliking mediums. Like, I'm going to cold read you to pretend to be your dead grandpa to take advantage of your grief to get your money. I think it's one of the most evil things you can do.
That psychic John Edwards, who did cold reads of people and was like a major television phenomenon for like 2 years. Yeah.
Somebody should step on that guy's balls in a non-consensual way. Like somebody, like a golf cleat. Like, fuck that guy. That shit sucks.
Oh man, yeah. But I want to reiterate, it's that cultural specificity does kind of raise this up above the usual psychological horror kind of deal. It is, I think, a crucial element to this.
Yes. Music and sound design is great. Their instruments and sounds are common to Taiwanese music. When I talk about that kind of distancing uncanny effect, the language barrier was real big for me in that, like watching the TV scenes in this and the commercials, it had a distancing effect to me, which was very good, very useful. Great looking game for using pretty simple, like assets. Like, it's very well stylized.
Yes.
The mannequins in this look great.
I love
they're
those
wonderful,
things.
Spooky mannequins.
And they're not designed to be like outright spooky, they don't have like blood coming out of the joints, or like, are those human bones inside?
But they're not like, they're like gigantic dolls of specific people. Incredible stuff.
The other aesthetic thing that I forgot to make a note of, great use of FMV in this.
Oh yeah, the TV and stuff like that, very, very well. Or were you meaning the overlays?
Like the overlays, the nightmare scenes, like the panic attack scene, kind of toward the end, is fucking amazing. Yeah,
it's very good.
Yeah. So this developer, Red Candle, they had a minor hit with 2017's Detention. It is an interesting game, but also has frustrating stealth elements to it. More mechanical, but they, not adeptly so, let's say. That is a game about a girl who is trapped in this hellish version of her school during the White Terror in 1960s Taiwan. One of those huge times of cultural upheaval and repression over there. With this one and with Devotion, they wanted to kind of continue making a game that could introduce Taiwanese culture to an international audience, because that is so rare to see in video games. Even like horror games. There's like Pamali out of Indonesia. Also, I think, there's White Day from South Korea. A handful come out of, non-Japan countries, but like this is, just been these developers didn't see themselves represented and said, let's put this out there.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot on the show. Like I am always really, really happy to see games from places we don't typically get games from. It is a good way for me to drive myself mad, is to just think about like, there's probably 100 bands I would really love that I'll never hear because they're Ukrainian or Russian or, Portuguese. There's probably, 100 games I would really love that I'll never get a chance to play because they didn't come over here that represent really cool things that aren't, America and Japan.
Yeah.
Which are the two places that video games tend to come from and be about.
Even mainland China and India, they've got more than 1 billion people apiece. And I don't know that I have played a game out of either,
Yeah.
Like I've probably played a game that was developed partially in some kind of, Chinese studio, but not a, like a very like personal and heartfelt narrative that has felt like this.
Like
those are
artifact.
Culture artifact. Those kind of feel like, economic instruments more than anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because of what they want to do, there are some difficulties in translation and localization. Because there are culture and language bound concepts that are familiar to people from Taiwan that are hard to capture in other languages. And I imagine because there's not the infrastructure, they're like, we've been localizing Japanese games to English forever.
Yeah.
This is kind of treading, if not new ground, strictly new ground, but like little tread ground.
Yeah. Just like, okay, how do we introduce an American audience to the idea of the guardian deity, not just like of the house, because different rooms have different guardian deities, but like specifically like a guardian deity of the latrine, which is what Siu Guanyin is kind of taking off of. Zigu had a minor cult, as I understand of that, and there are a couple of different versions of that deity. Fascinating to read about, but like, how do you bring that to somebody and describe it without it being a Wikipedia thing?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Originally, they weren't going to make this 3D. Detention is a 2D side-scrolling game, but the producer Doi Sheng eventually decided that the only way to express this was in 3D to kind of show everything.
Yeah.
And the main inspirations of this were the big major works of first-person horror that we've had at the time. So like PT, Layers of Fear, or Remains of Edith Finch, which is not a horror game. Exactly, but the influences are on its sleeve.
Yeah, you see a lot of Edith Finch in this. Different rooms representing different stories, things like that. The little vignettes and cutaways. You can see it there. Let's talk about. Let's at least outline what happened with the banning. Let's say, because it's this is associated very much with the game itself. You're gonna know about this game from headlines about it. Because of an asset that was present in the game. Sometimes it's called an Easter egg. The studio insists that it was a placeholder that they just forgot to replace. There's an asset that mentions Chinese Premier Xi Jinping alongside Winnie the Pooh. And reportedly, Xi Jinping hates when people compare him to that honey loving bear with all of his friends. Yeah.
It's similar to in the United States, if you put out a game that says Biden is Ziggy, you get drone striked immediately.
Yep.
No one's done it, but the first person to do it is going to become...
They're too afraid to because they know what's going to happen.
They know what's going to happen. It's basically putting a gun to your head and pulling the trigger. Like, do not call Biden Ziggy. I
think that it's worth being a little bit delicate about this because every story that comes out about what the Chinese government does, I'm sure I know they do lots of horrible things to the Uyghurs and such, but they end up being disputed, and we don't want to fall prey to just like things that are politicized, like anti-communist, even though that party over there sucks, or just like, oh, wacky China story out of there. Like, don't want to fall to that, but like stuff disappears off the internet that relates that compares the two. That compares Xi Jinping to
it is a known thing, and even if it wasn't a known thing, we would know this because of the results of this very innocuous little image.
Yes,
that happened with this game.
The facts of this speak for itself. So please calm down, tankies.
Yeah,
please.
I mean, yeah, I can imagine more people listening to this thinking that we should be less couching ourselves more than more. You know, I imagine we're more likely for people to think we're being wusses than think we're being offensive with this. But
authoritarian governments suck. People should be able to make video games, and it's ridiculous that you cannot, say something about the leader of a country because without having it taken down there. That is
Biden is Ziggy.
Universally. Biden is Ziggy, and I will stare into the sky in defiance as the drone strike hits.
Yep. Kamala Harris is Kathy. Fight me.
You should
Trump
be able
is
to.
Rose is Rose. Yeah, no matter what comic or little cartoon character a world leader is,
Pence's
I'll
love
say they're
is.
all of them. Yeah.
This is my opinion as an American. You should be able to say "fuck the president" to their face. So
yes. However, cannot do this in China. So little comparisons, memes comparing this guy to Winnie the Pooh gets censored on the internet there, taken down at the direction of the government. There are rumors, we don't know whether any of this is true, that there are really harsh punishments for this, but these are all disputed. This is where we're couching ourselves to say. However, we do know that when Devotion came out and people found this placeholder image with this talisman that had Winnie the Pooh and Xi Jinping, along with these kind of homophones that amounted to your mother or moron, review bombs started. This game was widely praised, had that overwhelmingly positive, and then kabam, instantly got review bombed by people who either love the premiere or Winnie the Pooh. It's unclear.
It is unclear.
What if the government just really didn't want to besmirch Pooh?
Yeah,
like they were actually going at it from the other way.
That would be charming.
It would be really charming.
Yeah. The other interpretation, either that there is an army of nationalistic gamers who take every offense against their dear leader personally, like that sucks. I don't like that. Nationalism is bad, or that the government itself directed this somehow. Either of those options is fucking terrible. But regardless, it was pulled from Steam in China. And because of the controversy, Red Candle's initial publishers, Indie Vent and Winking Skywalker, feels important to name them because this is an act of cowardice. They cut ties, thinking this would damage them financially.
As did like platforms.
Yes.
So it wasn't just them. The game was pulled from all these storefronts. They said technical issues, but that is not true. I don't believe that.
They had already patched out the asset, but it didn't matter.
Yeah, I do not believe that. This was a threat. This was some power play.
It became a political football. Politicians in China and Taiwan, kind of use this as just a part of the greater narrative of communism, or the CCP's version of communism.
The Chinese government.
Yeah, Chinese government.
People kept trying to get it out. GOG tried to do this, but eventually ended up pulling the game because they got many messages from gamers. Again, we don't know if those are real gamers or if that's government, or just absolute poo hounds. It's hard to say. Yeah. But in 2021, Red Candle Games said, fuck it, put up their own storefront. So now you can play it as long as you're outside of China and like to buy it and play it. Which again, I want these people to make more games.
Yes.
So recommend you do.
This became a cult hit, even beyond the controversy. It hit Game of the Year lists, and it reviewed really well, which is well deserved. And we do not know what Red Candle is doing right now outside of making a film or overseeing a film adaptation of Detention.
Yes, starring Winnie the Pooh. Just really to thumb their nose.
How does she make the time?
So let's get into it.
Let's do. So things begin in a scene that does not appear horrific. We're sitting on a couch. It is October 7th, 1987, watching a weather report, listening to our wife talk to us while she finishes up dinner.
Yeah, it doesn't seem so bad. She brings up the fact that your daughter fell at school. That's ominous and vague. And asked you not to go to the school and give the principal a hard time. Kind of your first hint that like maybe things are a little bit off.
Yeah, if you're going to the school to beat up the principal, it's not a good thing. But she mentions like, oh, I need to buy some fresh fruit for the mentor. The counseling, has really made Mei Xin much more lively. And me, without the context, just like, oh, the mentor, like, oh, there's like a counselor working with, helping her get more confident or what have you.
Yes. But ominous sounds kind of start and the room starts looking distorted around the edges. You can hear blade sharpening. You look down at your hands there and Li Feng calls out, "Where's Mei Xin?" repeatedly.
Yeah.
Where's the, or what's in the box? Etc. Till the screen goes black.
Yes. And now we are sitting in a dark version of the apartment. The TV is on static. If you turn it off, it'll turn back on again. The only noteworthy things in here, there's a crayon drawing of the family, laying out everybody here, mom, dad, and daughter. And there is a red arowana fish in this tank that is way too small for it. Like this fish is not able to turn around.
Yes.
And the little description when you mouse over says, oh, this is to bring luck and prosperity.
Yes. Again, sad fish. But at first it's just like, oh, that, it's a luck and prosperity fish. Learning. The only thing you can really do is leave. So you leave the apartment through the front door and see the hallway. This is the first kind of indication that maybe things are a little bit shabby.
Yeah.
Here again, I don't know what is the norm or what have you, but there's like, debris in the hallway. To me, which seems shorthand. The hallway leads to another apartment. This one has a rabbit symbol on a red cage on the front door. Year of the Rabbit, 1987.
Yo, rabbits represent.
Yeah, youngs.
Yeah, that's mine.
Also, and the olds, and the older than me. The youngers and the older than me shout it out.
Yeah, I think the thing about any zodiac is that it goes on a cycle.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I don't believe in the zodiac. No. But yeah, this is your apartment in the Year of the Rabbit, 1987. That is the year the intro took place in. Yeah. There is this wall-hung altar that you can find to the god of theater and art, and a family portrait where the dad's face is out of frame. Again, just nobody would ever take this photo. It's weird and uncanny.
This is a sign, so in a version of the afterlife that is common in Taiwan. This is something I just read in interpretations of this game. The kind of in the purgatory, a person is unable to perceive themselves. So the fact that we never really get a good look at Feng Yu's face, including right here, the lengths that it goes to is supposed to kind of underline that.
I mean, you don't get a good look at too many people's face. In this, and not being able to see yourself in this is also just a classic. I'm exploring a asylum that's actually my daughter's funeral,
right?
Horror trope, like it's distancing.
Yeah,
it dehumanizes you and makes it easier for you to slot into the character.
We do see FMV, like actual like real photos of actresses playing Li Feng and Mei Xin.
There's pictures all over. The wall, but rendered we don't see it very often, right? And part of that's a tech thing. Like we don't actually see the character; we just see photos.
They're often in shadow.
Yeah.
We head back toward the bedrooms. There's this L-shaped hallway here, but there is one door instead of going into the bedroom, takes us straight into the hallway again. And we're kind of outside. The floor is brick. It's raining, and there is this red umbrella kind of floating in the air in the distance, kind of being held up by somebody invisible.
Yes. We approach the umbrella. The lights go out, and the umbrella disappears, and there's a bloody red shoe sitting on the floor and writing in blood on the walls. Yeah. We see this twitching, bloody woman standing in the hallway behind us, and we approach. She runs at you at inhuman, horror speed, twitchy horror speed. I was worried at this point of playing this game. Like I was like, is this going to be, because I associate, bloody long-haired woman at the end of a hall who runs at you with supernatural speed with kind of cheap horror.
Yeah, like cheap Western J horror, like media made it in the 2000s, aping J horror from the 90s.
Even J horror from the 90s at this point, I'm over. I'm over this. And I was like, how many, is this just going to be a bunch of scare chords and things jumping out at me?
Yeah.
They use it pretty judiciously, but I personally don't think it needs it at all. And so this as a front, you can understand a little bit why this is the opening gambit, because you got to get butts in seats. And this is what people, when they hear first person walking simulator horror game, this is what they're expecting.
Yeah.
You're expecting PT.
This is like
ghosts are going to jump at you.
This is also setting up an expectation that Li Fang, that the wife, is, somehow responsible for the disappearance of the daughter.
Yes.
The kind of the feminine objects here, the demonic woman who seems to be attacking you but running past you. It's a misdirect.
Yes. Yeah, and it's also because we're doing psychological horror games. This, on some level, he probably blames her. Because she left and wasn't there to prevent him from doing something stupid.
Yep.
March.
I've been alone for 24 hours.
I've already drowned my daughter in wine. If you left me for a week, the whole city'd be drowned. Yeah. So but this, I just, it won me back, but this had me worried.
Yeah. We go to the door at the end there, and this takes us into chapter 1, Doorways. The door here is the year of the monkey, 1980.
Yeah, monkeys.
And this chapter is kind of about seeing a little bit like what the status quo was in these different years of the apartment.
Yes. So we head in, we use the key from this nearby lockbox to get in. And this is the apartment being unfinished. We just moved in. The radio is playing this distorted monologue, this introduction to a show called Whispers of the Heart. They're like a call-in advice show.
It feels like a Delilah kind of thing.
Yeah.
For him, just as an American analog for it, talks about, so sometimes you come home to a familiar door, but you step in and suddenly it's different. It's off-putting, this is talking to you, but also, you can see like, oh, we just, things are wrong with my family. I need radio advice.
Yes.
Yeah.
We start getting the family sketched out during this chapter. So one of the first things you learn, you find this signed portrait of the wife, Li Fang, in her glory days. She was a movie star, like a starlet. This is signed by the film crew there. So you know that your wife was a famous.
Yeah.
And you start putting stuff away. And as you do so, you find things around your house that reveals this character. You also find a screenwriter's award given to the husband.
Yeah.
So you weren't always the scrub that you are at this point.
Yeah. There's an envelope on the wall that contains a screenplay script written by you, by Feng Yu, describing the scene of a couple expecting a child, moving into a new home and putting things into place. This seems dorky, like, and is like in universe. This is a rejected script. Feng Yu just kind of started writing really boring shit as wish fulfillment. Yeah.
When I talk about ways of this game, part of I think my affection for this game is because it swerved in some directions I would not like that horror games tend to do. So like when I read this and read a script that was not dissimilar to what I was doing, I was like, here's another Harry Crumb knockoff. Like this is going to be another thing where like, oh, he's the things in his scripts are coming true. I was just kind of spying the horror cliches. No, it's just him being a shitty screenwriter. Like, and this isn't supposed to be good or anything. This just exists as a plot thing. It's him doing wish fulfillment, but there's nothing supernatural about it. He just stopped being able to write good stories. And they're awful. Like every time you find a script in this, they're not worth reading. It's the worst King Lives in the Castle bullshit dialogue that you've ever read. Like he should just go back in town and populate towns and JRPGs because this guy would be great at it.
It's really funny because he's writing about the life that he wishes he could have, and it's the worst shit. And if he wrote about the life that he actually did have, it probably would be okay.
And he could have the life that he wishes that he could have, basically.
If he was able to be honest with himself. Yeah.
But again, I love that this is not, you know, I get it when I read something that's close to what's happening. I'm like, ooh,
as you start,
what kind of time goblins or metafictional goblins are at play here?
You open up this document and Alan Wake starts talking.
Yeah, I didn't want that
God
bullshit.
Damn it, Alan! No,
God damn it! Like, I'm in control now. I know. Like, play control too. God damn it, Alan. Like, it just doesn't fall to these like very common things that are cool tropes that are just dead.
Yeah.
They've just been used so many fucking times. I really like this. And I like that, you know, we eventually narratively find out like he's a shitty screenwriter, but we can know that in advance. Like sometimes when you see bad art is a weirdly hard thing to portray. In a work of fiction like this, because you don't know if the character is bad or this is meant to be fine, and the creators who wrote the thing just kind of fucked up,
right? Yeah.
You know? So
it's a cool trick here, and it's a cool thing that they do. So you find this, you're probably going to find this after you pick up the screenwriting awards, and you read this and you think, okay, so this is probably supposed to be good. But like, no, those awards are in the past. Like that's, you know, and like, what's funny is, you know, part of doing this little task in here to set things to right is putting one of those awards in a trophy case, right?
Yeah.
And that trophy case starts getting moved to like less prominent locations until it goes away entirely. Yep. And you just find the screenwriting awards like just on the floor, just like as detritus.
Like your sim got tired.
Yeah.
So you're unpacking things, and as you do, you unpack like a representational thing. Like you put the dishes away and that furnishes the kitchen.
Yes.
You know, it kind of does that. Trophies, dishes, portraits, posters. You know, of your wife when she was a star, and you can, you know, get little bits of information. It's really pretty sparing with like the codexes kind of thing. Is you can't comment on every single thing in the game, which I really like. You know, but when you comment on this, you know, he says after our marriage she stopped getting her portraits done. These people should not be married.
Or she shouldn't have like sacrificed her career for a marriage in this case. And
no, but
it's a fucked up thing about culture. Yeah.
None of this is good for anybody involved.
Right. Yeah. Oh man. And the fact that they produce a being of pure good like Mei Shin. Oh God. And ruin her.
She's so young. Like it's totally possible she eventually becomes a being of pure evil.
She's so sweet though. Yeah. Man. The power goes out. There's an emergency light blinking in the hallway directing you to this charred fuse box. Here's your problem. Instead of using a fuse, you used a cake topper. Used a ballerina made of icing, and it shorted the circuit.
Do it. There's a problem. As you head back with this after you fix this, the radio plays a song in the living room. It's lit by all these red candles. You get near this area and warp into this like negative space.
Yeah.
And
later, this is like the visual style of this is going to be repeated when you are blindfolded. So the idea is like, oh, you are blind standing in front of this. And there's a letter, darling, did you get the gift I got you? And it's a lighter. And when you flick it, you are back in the office. You're back in your office.
Yeah. And this is, it's a Father's Day present, but it's also your source of light.
Yes.
You wander around and can look at things. So you hear these series of chirps, like these monkey chirps out in the hallway. And you head outside, you find a new door at the end. This goes to Year of the Tiger, 1986, Go Tigers.
There's this kind of ominous thrumming and dripping. And you can around this little privacy barrier and see that the room is populated with mannequins of the husband and wife. It's a mannequin of Feng Yu, mannequin of Li Feng.
Yes. Yeah. And they're great looking. They're scary, but not, over the top.
Right.
The husband and wife are reading the school correspondence journal. And we switch, look over, the husband is checking this empty fish tank looking in on it. It's really creepy and good. As you move around the apartment, the mannequins change positions, and not just like jump scaring behind you. Like they go about their day. Like it's a really elegant way of showing day after day kind of mundane time passing.
And there's multiple copies of them too, like doing different tasks. So it's like, just kind of overlapping, showing the business that they're about to go into. What used to be the office where you would write your scripts is now Mei Shin's bedroom. That's kind of being set up here. It's mostly empty. There's a bed with a lamp beside it and a metronome beside it. It's unclear if that is to soothe her, if it's like, okay, yeah, this will help the baby sleep, or if they're trying to give her an impeccable sense of rhythm. Could be both. No idea.
Sure. Most babies are in 4/4 time. But, like one of those, you don't want to take 5 on a baby, if you know what I mean. Babies on the 3s and 7s. my baby's on 7/4. She's in broken social scene. Yeah. She's my muse. He uses Math Rocky. I don't know.
It's Math Rock adjacent. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like Muse, so I don't know. She's my Mars Volta. I don't know. So we go to the parents' bedroom. A lot of this stuff is unmotivated travel.
Yes.
You're just going to explore, but it doesn't feel bad because it's a really small apartment.
Yeah.
Go to the parents' bedroom. The dad is taking a picture of his wife and child. And we take the doll, the Mei Shin doll, that represents that, and put it on this toy chair on her bed in her bedroom. And this changes that scene. That room fills out, so you get the chronology here. They took a picture with her baby, and then they set up the room for the baby. There's a piano, a desk, toy shelves. There's an article on the bed that talks about something like the birthday grab, which is a custom where objects corresponding to different careers are placed in front of a baby on their first birthday, and they reach for the one that is believed to be their intended career, similar to how Bobby Hill almost became the Dalai Lama.
Yeah, it didn't become Dalai Lama. It was a minor lama. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, minor lama.
Sanglug, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. by pointing into the mirror. Yeah. But imagine your parents like railroading you into a career because you're going to become an abacus because you reached for, you're going to become an accountant because you reached for an abacus because it made noise.
You're going to become an abacus one way or another.
Oh, garbled up my sentence there. My bones, no.
The new horror game from Duckfeed Games. You are the abacus.
Yeah, it's just funny. I don't.
Weird. It's a cultural ritual that doesn't make sense to us, but I understand it intellectually.
Yes, yeah.
When you turn around, the parents have all gathered around this, which again is really good foreshadowing and stuff. Like a lot of these problems are going to be caused by overbearing parents.
Yes.
And doing that is just having them crowd in physically on the player character when you're in the room is a really elegant way of showing that.
Yeah, and them just crowding against the door and peeking through. It's kind of one of the iconic shots of the game.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. You hear water running, and you go to the bathroom, which has been unlocked, or which has been locked in most of the versions of the apartment here. And the sound kind of stops when you open up the doors. It's just a bathroom.
Yes.
And there is sheet music here for Happy Birthday near the sink.
There's a very good reason why the bathroom is, the room in the house that is the most
off limits to you most of the time.
Yeah. You don't want to go back in there. You put this sheet music on the piano, and the song starts playing. You walk in the living room. It's dark. The photos are on the wall are all crooked, and there's a birthday cake and balloons on the coffee table, which is also like an iconic shot I've seen for this.
Yeah.
Like a birthday cake and balloons lit up in a room can switch from being celebratory to creepy really quick. You put the ballerina figurine on the cake next to another one. There's a taller and headless one next to it. Again, no heads for daddy. And they change poses, but it makes these horrible like retching sounds. The retching like, is also,
yeah, it's also a thing.
Every
time they move, it's like a joint being dislocated. It's pretty rough. And like the one like the small one bends in half backward, like it just and it's suddenly bloody, and we hear the child making the wish. I wish to be a famous superstar just like mom.
Granted. Wishmaster pops out and
reporting for TV.
Oh, you want to drown in wine? Got it. What? The scene changes when a shadowy Mason swings up from under the coffee table and blows out the candles. A jump scare that I'm fine with. That this one feels earned. It's not just a big scare cord. The apartment is now dark and empty, and the TV is playing this singing talent show. This is FMV, and really, really well done and eerie. I love these. It gets garbled after this short introduction, but we're going to be coming back to this talent show quite a bit.
Yeah, it'll be stringing out more and more of the broadcast as we go.
Yep.
So we're back in the apartment, and there's some knocking at the door. When you step out, you're in this new hallway, one that kind of bends around to the right. All of the rest have been these spooky hallways that just go to the other room. There's no way in or out. And as you approach the corner, this ball bounces against the wall, and now the walls are covered in a child's doodles.
There's a new script we can find. This one's titled Birthday, where the child says she doesn't want a gift. She just wants the family to be happy. And, also a boring script. But when you check on this, it's like, if you'd like to know why, we need to talk about that strange illness. And we switch over to 1985, year of the ox.
Yes.
Where this illness starts. We go in, there's this howling because there's a storm going on, and we learn about this illness first from finding this note from school on the table. Mei Xin was sent from the school to the hospital because she had difficulty breathing.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, oh no, like the dreams of being a singer, like she has asthma, right? Yeah. And they're like forcing her. Okay, that's one possible interpretation.
Yes. Yeah. Her bedroom's locked at this point, but we can hear her crying inside. And there's a sign on the door that says "wash hands before entering." Really great. You just had to go do that, to get in. But as you do, they get bloodier and bloodier. You have blood on your hands.
Yeah. And then screen flashes and it's clean. It's not no blood in sight. Got nothing to do with blood. Yeah. So we open the door, and instead of a bedroom, it's a hospital room. There's a hospital bed in the center, and the Mei Xin porcelain doll is pinned to the bed with these large syringes, and you have to take them out one by one.
Yes. Big cartoony syringes.
Yeah.
Like toy syringes, because it's the doll.
Yeah.
When you take them out, the bedroom turns back to normal. And on the desk, there's a diagnostic report. The notes are symptoms. But it says there's no physical ailment observed.
Yeah.
There's also a cut up x-ray film in this folder. So we can go do one of those like junior jumbles that walking sims love to make you do. Like just find the missing piece puzzles.
Yep.
It's so funny.
Just Walter White with the plate just over and over again.
Doing this here and then doing it again in Strangeland at the end with the mirror was very funny. I'm like, okay, video games.
The living room is now kind of half the living room and half a hospital ward. There's like a nurse's station. A script on the desk kind of sketches out the scene of the father ripping out his son's acupunctural needle, saying, "Oh, I know another way to cure you." So, okay, cool. It's acupuncture. But it's corresponding to stuff. There's this overhead projector in the middle of the room where we can arrange the remaining X-ray pieces and to show a chest, and we turn the thing around and point the projection of the chest X-ray onto the chest of Mei Xin on the portrait behind you. Blood starts appearing on the lungs and kind of settling into writing. Yeah.
Very spooky. The payphone rings out of the hall. You go to pick it up, or you're in a hospital lobby, the payphone there. And it's a woman named Mentor Hugh, who's heard of the situation, offers to help the biggest monster in the game. So we leave the apartment and get to this new hallway, and we can hear this radio playing a folk song while this little girl made of little motes of red light kneels in front of it as we make our way.
Yeah. And we go up the stairs. This mentor happens to live in your building. And we're in this red lit hallway lined with these paper talismans. And at the end is the rabbit door.
Go rabbits. The couch and TV, when we go in here, are just in this void. The portraits hang, but there are no walls. And we sit on the couch and watch the singing performance. The Rainbow Star Stage, the Cradle of Superstars. That's dark on its own.
Yep.
And she's going to sing, our daughter's going to sing Lady of the Pier, which was a song that our wife made famous.
Yes. Yeah. And the screen glitch is there. So you stand up, and when you turn around, the wall that the family portrait is on is gone, and it is kind of like hanging further back.
Yes.
And as you start kind of approaching it, you see reflected on it, not you, but this golden idol. We're going to learn this is an idol of Sigu Guanyin.
Yes.
And, suddenly the walls are back. And you are in this tiny room with filthy tiles running up and down the wall, with water running down it, and the room is tiny and filling up with water as the grout on the tiles starts oozing blood
or oozing wine.
Oh yeah,
as what I interpret most of the blood in this, I interpret as being wine. Actually, same thing with washing his hands, but it's a cool swerve because. Blood coming out of the walls is a cliche. It being wine is more personal.
Yes.
The water overtakes you and you look up. You see reflected in the surface, not yourself, but a mirrored version of Li Feng, bloody and eyeless, not bending her neck to look up, but bending backwards at her waist. Again, a creepy kind of J-horror thing, a swerve about this being about bad wife.
Yeah.
When it's about bad dad and bad cult.
And this takes us into chapter 2, nostalgia.
Yes. So you climb out of the bathtub full of blood wine. You're in the lobby, which now connects all the different areas of the apartment. So there's a lobby and it leads to what would be different apartments, but they're just different years of the same apartment.
Yes.
Mei Xin runs off towards a hallway that ends in this locked apartment door. And a seal on the front says, collect the fragments of the past to reverse into a flawless present. I love a flawless present as a phrase.
Yep. It's very powerful.
Yeah. Basically saying, go do all the adventure game things and this will open. The way that this is kind of signaled to you is that each apartment hallway has this bulletin board with articles that used to be pasted there. You can see they've been torn off. You enter the apartment, you click on the things to fill out the boards and get these little backstory bits and fill out the checklist, basically, to unlock the final little bit there to move into chapter 3.
Yeah. We're looking for doodads to put together to put on the door to open it.
Yes. Yep. Like Resident Evil.
So we can do a lot of this in any order. I'm just representing the order that I ended up doing here. Eventually you go to each room, see what the state is, pick up the items that are there, and then take them to where they belong in the other rooms. Yeah.
Yes. Which then sometimes provides items that you'll use in a different room. Yeah. Again, I mentioned this at the beginning. Sometimes I think this is well signaled. Sometimes it's a little bit arbitrary. The game is so short and the areas you're exploring are small. It doesn't feel bad. To me, but there is a bit of wander about, I think. When you go into the 1980s apartment, there's a party going on. It's full of chairs. The mahjong table is out. There are empty bottles everywhere. And there's this little ritual table at the back.
Yeah. The sound of a tea kettle draws you back into the kitchen, and you find Li Feng's to-do list outlining the preparations for this party/ceremony for the house's guardian deities before they move in. And it's positively nightmarish, all the stuff that she has to do, waking up at 5 a.m. to go to the market, stuff like that. Yes. All this is just kind of like placed on her. Yeah.
Yeah. There is a lot of bad gender stuff that happens in this. And I have no idea how representative that is. It happens in this story. Yeah. I'm not trying to say anything about our gender stuff being good or anything general.
It's bad whenever a wife is domineered.
Yeah, 100%. Like the idea that like this is wife work.
Yeah.
That sucks. Regardless of the culture. So you go to the bedroom and you grab a vinyl copy of Lady of the Pier off the wall. This was the theme song for Li Feng's breakout movie that she sang. And this reveals a little hole, like a little peephole that you can look through. When you do so, you press a button to make this noise, and we see Feng Yu, sitting at this table, stressed out over some papers, like writing a script, ignoring your pleas. You are now Mei Shin in this little instance moment, asking Daddy to play with her.
Yeah.
And he loses his temper.
He gets so angry that he sweeps everything off the table, ending the scene. Just the amount of, we eventually start finding Mei Shin's journals, and just the amount that she writes, just, oh God, I just wish that my parents would play with me. Please play with me. They're so
really,
busy.
really lonely little kid.
Yeah.
It is a thing where, like, this isn't wife's fault in this at all. Like, wife is victim in this as well, but also she could play with her daughter. Yeah. I think this is a set of bad parents. Like, there are 3 levels of crapulence, or 4. There's a gradient, of like cult leader to, to dad, to wife, to daughter.
Yeah. It's just not up to the task, to the task here.
This family should not have been. It's not good for anybody.
Yeah. Just like the wife should have continued being a successful movie star. They probably could have hired people to take care of stuff, but no, couldn't be. Yeah. Yep. So there's this letter on the bed to Li Feng from some of her showbiz friends, kind of bemoaning her retirement. And they say something. They mention, the sale of your ancestral home must be this temporary fix to a deeper problem.
Yeah. No good. We take some red shoes out of a box and see this combination padlock on the wardrobe. And there's a note, obviously written by a child, says, "This is my secret hideout. The password's on my favorite picture." So that's something we have to go grab. Mei Shin's room is open now. And it's full, like horror full of stacks of books.
Yeah.
And the wall is papered by these pages, covered in these solid red scribbles everywhere.
Yeah.
Here.
This is your frustrated output.
Yes. Yeah. Because at this point in 1980, still kind of your office. And the dissonance and conflict between raising the daughter and being a screenwriter and your main character's kind of misplaced blame for him becoming a shitty screenwriter, on his daughter probably is at least a little bit, the reason why all this stuff seemed like a good idea. Like, that's not what the story's about, but it's in there.
Yeah. There's this flower pot in the middle, kind of surrounded by these balled up pages on the toppled screenwriting awards. And there's a note that is kind of planted there reading, "You've turned my deepest misery into a comforting flower." A clue for something we're going to put here later.
Yes. The living room is now dark, mostly empty. There's a document on the table that tells the story of Sigu Genyin, the spirit serpent. A poor farmer sent his sickly son to a Buddhist temple, and a giant snake appeared at the farm to keep pests away from his crops.
Yes.
And we're going to get this story in bits.
Yeah, it's going to kind of lay this out. And this black and white serpent is going to pop up as imagery throughout here.
Yes.
There's this lantern casting a harsh shadow at this tripod without a camera. You mentioned like, we used to have this Polaroid, and then I got a fancy single lens camera. This is one that they couldn't afford. We're going to find out.
Yes. A really great touch here. The radio in the kitchen is playing that advice show, Whispers of the Heart. And this is clearly your wife calling about you. Which, that's got to feel bad. The listener, he reads a letter about a husband who spends like a king, even though the family is broke, throws big parties, and goes to sleep while the wife stays up late cleaning up.
Yeah.
So, absolutely abused, put upon wife.
Yeah. There's, the spending and the parties. This is playing into an element, of like, no matter what your actual circumstances are, you must present as though you are prosperous. When it would be, better for everybody if you just lived humbly to your means. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I generally think that is a truth.
Yes.
Like culture aside, I think that was probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you leave the 1980 apartment and you see a mannequin of Li Feng standing at the bulletin board. The head slowly turns towards you and then she disappears. She was placing some flyers. Her band's playing. There are 2 new articles here. One about Li Feng retiring to focus on her family, and another about her last movie, Fluttering Feathers, being panned by critics for its poor script. Yeah. The idea here probably that she managed, used her clout as a movie star to get one of your scripts put in, and it wasn't good.
I played this for my family. It fucking sucks.
Yeah, your family hates you. Only I. That's Mentor Q. Your family hates you. Drown them in wine. We just need to get Sigu Guan down here to master it professionally.
Your next script, Palm Tree Girls. It's going to go crazy. It's going to be amazing.
I love Palm Tree Girls. I love Palm Tree Guys.
Yeah.
So we go to the 1985 apartment in this one. This is on the day of the storm, on the typhoon.
Yes. There's a note on this locked suitcase that says Mei Shen is sulking in her bedroom because their trip was canceled. And Li Fang asks us, "Hey, can you read her favorite storybook?" Just giving us a little bit of a prompt here. The misdirect here is that the trip was canceled because of the storm.
Yes.
No, it's not. It's you canceled it.
Jerk. Yeah. You light some candles on the table. There are 3 place settings here. One is just filled with pills. One bowl filled with pills, heavily medicating your child at this point.
Yeah.
The kitchen has this big hanging cauldron pot with this doodle on the fridge with Mei Shen doodled her dad's poem about a wine brew. Shoes, a crown, and a red dress are the basic elements of a superstar. I did not really understand what this cauldron was. So this is a thing where the kind of just imagery threw me out of the quote unquote, like, I'm not, man, this game is hard as fuck. How do you get past Soldier of Godric? I'm not trying to do that. But there was a part where like I needed to complete the wine, but I didn't really realize what this was.
Yes.
And that kind of like I got stuck there for a little bit, which might have to do with why I spent time walking back and forth between apartments in this chapter.
Yeah. Understanding that the cauldrons where these non-wine ingredients went, to make this. There's again, I do not know this firsthand, but just in reading about this, there's a custom where if you on the day your daughter is born, you would bury a jar of wine sealed, and then on the day that she is married, you would dig it up and drink it. Yeah,
nice.
So just the idea of this wine, brewing it for future success. Wine ages and gets better as it goes.
Yeah. No, I get that. I just didn't know what the thing was.
Well, what this big spooky cauldron wrapped in ropes was.
What this object was. I just like what is this thing for?
I'm just providing context for like this puzzle and what it represents in the game, not chastising Pascari for being unable to clock what this was. Yeah.
It's one of the few times where the cultural difference actually was an impediment to me in this. Mei Shen's room, when you go in, you read an essay on her desk that she written about her family for school. Her father works late and scolds her very often. She is too sick to go to school very much. Sad.
Yeah.
And the Mei Shen porcelain doll hovers kind of in front of you, twitching. At this point, when you leave the room, spooky.
Yeah, don't care for this one. Apparently, this doesn't have a definite trigger, or there was a bug that made it trigger like at random times.
Yes, it didn't always happen here. So, people who I found out in looking through this, because when I first saw the first jump scare with the spooky lady who ran fast at you, and I was like, I went online to see how jump scary the game was, not because I needed like a warning about I can handle a jump scare. I just wanted to set my expectations properly.
Yes.
And I found out that there are websites that just tell you what jump scares are and when they occur in media for people who are sensitive to them. And this threw that off. Like the people went on, you're like, I really want to play this game for its deep, nuanced story and everything. I just don't want, screamers. I don't want Slender Man to pop up and yell at me. And this would throw people off. Like they'd be like, oh, it happens at this point. It wouldn't happen. And then would come at a surprising time. Yeah. Which is a bummer.
Yeah. This one of the major sites that is not specifically about jump scares, but I always want to hype it as a good resource, doesthedogdie.com.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it is not just it is not about it's not just does a dog die, but it is a number of things. Is there excessive gore? Is there shaving / cutting? Are any teeth damaged? things like that. So you can go and take a look, and if something that you would see that would make your day worse if you saw it, you can use that to help steer some of your just help steer your media choices. It's good.
I love knowing about that stuff. Like it's it's speaking to the choir here that like the dumb conservative outrage about trigger warnings and stuff on college campuses, as if media has its effect by like surprising you. Like tricking you. Like, oh, this great work of literature only really works if you don't know that the characters got beheaded. Like, oh, what a breakthrough. The French Revolution? It was, oh, that's what they mean by it's the worst of times.
Oh,
fuck. Like
it's the best of times. Yes, I love this. Yeah. The worst of times. What the fuck?
What the fuck? No. Like it doesn't, like, just knowing a bad thing happens is useful and good, and if your art's quality relies on you not knowing the bad thing happens, it's probably pretty cheap. That's pretty cheap. Like you can have twists and stuff, but a twist should be more complicated than like a beheading happens.
Yeah. And Does the Dog Die is great because you can just go to the page, kind of like unfocus your eyes, do a Control F for the thing that you that bothers you, and then just look and get that answer, and then go away. You don't have to read the entire list if you don't want to. Like, we're fucking adults.
So are college students is the thing. Yeah. But then also this also ties into another Duckfeed axiom, which is like people are like, oh yeah, you say that, but when you be upset if the beheading and Hereditary was like ruined for you and stuff. And I'm like, for the people for whom beheading is a real big problem, the choice is not watch this in the pure way that critic wants them to, or this compromise way. It's the compromise way or nothing at all.
Yeah.
Glean the value you can out of it in the compromised form.
The presence of the thing like cannot be ruined to me. It's like, like the if I knew that there were beheadings generally in Hereditary, I would say, oh yeah, this is a horror movie. Probably something fucked up happens to a body. Knowing
I still wouldn't know the context around the two major beheadings.
Yeah, which both of which are some of the most upsetting things that have happened in a piece of media.
Yeah. It's fucking frustrating. Anywho, but this jump scare with the porcelain doll kind of hanging around you. I like when the doll is just kind of like teleporting around, drawing your attention to stuff. I love when she's like when she's moving and like sitting in the chair, just kind of swinging it back and forth. It's cute and good and unsettling. Yeah, doll is good. Jump scares are mixed.
Yes. Yeah. There's nothing in the master bedroom, really. There is another little pamphlet about Sigu Guanyin, about the sacrifices. This second chapter here. So the farmer's monk son, there we go, gets really sick. So the spirit serpent, has been helping, serving the family, speaks to the farmer and says, hey, brew this medicinal wine out of my flesh and blood. And he will get better instantly when he drinks it. And the snake bites himself and dies, sacrificing himself for the health of the son.
Based. The Mason's doll is sitting on this rocking chair, as we mentioned before, in the living room. We can see a school correspondence journal on her lap, learn that she's bored staying at home, and sympathizes with the fish, the arowana fish, which is a blunt symbol. This fish that's in too small of a space. Yeah. Reading this though turns us into a fish. We're in this new chamber, this kind of aquarium, these full four walls that are glass. That are like, we're inside an aquarium, but outside are panels that are a museum. Like we're seeing from the fish's perspective.
Things that are happening, and we press these buttons to make the porcelain doll and the little sets kind of animatronic their way through these little scenes while we get Mei Shin's narration.
Yes, it's incredibly weird when the Mei Shin doll starts singing "Take Me to the River" when you press the button. Like my talking Mei Shin doll never worked, so I was just really into it.
I was thrown off when I pressed the 1 and she said that her spider sense was tingling.
There's definitely something wrong with my Mei Shin doll.
Oh man,
if she had a spider sense, a lot of the problems in this game could be avoided.
Yeah, she probably could have run away from her dad.
Yeah, I would have liked it if she had been bitten by a radioactive spider. And that's the biggest difference in cultural and American and Taiwanese stories. Yep. Taiwanese stories are about, about overbearing parents and drowning your children in wine or alcohol poisoning. Whereas American stories are about being bitten by a radioactive spider and then newsmen who want pictures of you.
Yep, I was just sitting playing that game. I mean, people who watch that stream are like, okay, this is good, but when does she turn into Spider-Man?
I know. It's
like, where's the Spider-Man in this story?
Where's the website for that? We know when the dog dies. But I need to know when the character turns into Spider-Man.
When does Spider-Man show up? Just getting angrier and angrier. Like, oh, we're coming up on the end of the timeline here.
God damn it.
Better not be some post-credits bullshit.
It's an hour and 50 minutes into this movie. Okay, the daughter got her head cut off, and then the mom saw her own head cut off. They're going up into the treehouse. Is Spider-Man going to be there? Is that where the spider shows up? His name's Peter. It can't be any more simple than that. Come on. Yeah.
It's just watch the documentary Waiting for Superman. Spider-Man doesn't show up at all.
At all. God damn it. Spider-Man's barely in the Batman.
Holy shit. But the scenes play out as you press these buttons. There's only one order you can do them. The button you need to press is lit up. But she's angry at her dad for changing his mind and canceling their little trip. He had to work or do some bullshit. Yeah. So she grabs her storybook from her luggage and good.
Real quick, it's worth noting, like, he didn't have to work. Like, nope. This dad works for himself. So if he's canceling plans on his daughter, it's so he can write the worst scripts you've ever seen or stare at blank pieces of paper.
Yes.
Like, there's no outside force manipulating the dad.
Yeah. And you just want to tell him, if you're frustrated that your output is bad, go live more life. Then you can come back and turn it into other stuff.
Yeah. Or, maybe refocus your priorities in general in a cat's in the cradle kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he canceled. I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's just worth noting, like, he didn't have to do nothing.
I said have to. I was imprecise. Yeah. So she grabs her storybook from her luggage and hides the key in the wardrobe before leaving to go on this trip by herself in the middle of a storm.
So out of frustration, she dumps all her pills into the arowana fish tank where we're at, and huge pills drop in from above us. We come to and we see this suffocating fish lying in this broken tank surrounded by pills.
Yeah.
That is sad.
And foreshadowing here, you reach out and pluck out the fish's eye. And when you do, the thing stops moving. The eye is a marble.
Yes. Yeah. A new journal on the piano outlines what happened. Feng Yu told Mei Xin that if she took all of her medicine, they would go out and play, but then went back on that promise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He brought her some new vitamins, and she swore not to take them because nothing she takes helps. And her dad is just a liar. Don't break trust with your kids.
It's dangerous to lie to your kid. Yeah. So we go to the master bedroom here and open up the wardrobe, where we can find Mei Xin's secret hiding spot. We found the code was on the back of a picture.
This is a different one. That's the wardrobe in a different part.
Gotcha. Different time period. Inside here, her doll stands on this decorated closet. Inside this decorated closet, looming over this tiny little labyrinth box. And we put the marble in the box and do a game of labyrinth. We guide the marble to the hole, opening it and finding the key to the locked suitcase she had packed, where her favorite storybook is.
Mm-hmm. And so we open it up, and this starts an inspired segment. This is heartwarming as fuck, and it's a different style. It's 2D. This looks more similar to Devotion, but you are Detention. Yes, God, that would be weird.
It does look very similar to Devotion.
It does, yeah. But you're playing as the daughter in the story, with Feng Yu reading this to Mei Xin. And Mei Xin proposing her own changes to the story, and the dad is supportive, like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Usually this is trying, something bad is about to happen to an animal, and she will come up with a silly thing to save it, and then you see in the game little crayon drawings of what of her proposed little change that solves the predicament that this animal is in. There's a bear that's being used as a bridge, and we can't just leave him there. So there's a soap bubble and it takes him to school, and it's the most just precious thing.
It's very sweet. And I think the important thing about this, like earlier when I talked about the father being, victim and victimizer in this, and how that makes for better stories. This fella that you're playing is capable of being a good dad.
Yeah, this is good dadding.
This is incredibly good dadding. This is good parenting. Like, he went back on his promise. That sucks. But he's doing this perfectly. It's not just that the daughter suggests, he's doing what you should do with kids, which is like, what do you think? And she suggests all of these things. Like, he's not trying to do an improv game or whatever, or come up with the most clever solution. He's letting his daughter express herself. If circumstances had been different, like there is a moral failing to crumbling at any, adversity. And this guy has lots of moral failings, like in terms of keeping up appearances and stuff. And then obviously being credulous to a degree is also a problem, right? Like, you have a responsibility not to get fooled at a certain level. If this family had not faced these adversities, he might've been a good dad.
Yeah.
Like, there's a class of person out there who's good up to a point. I think that's really common and doesn't get explored very often as a character archetype. Like, people tend to be kind of set, but it the same way that like a band can just have one good song in them, like a parent might be good provided nothing happens. And that doesn't mean they're a good parent. It just means that it's not entirely black and white. And it's that kind of nuance, I think, that makes this story so remarkable. It would be really easy just to do this as a cat's on the cradle. Like, if he wasn't doing a job that he could just do at any time and drop, if he was like, a businessman, a very important businessman, it would be a way worse story.
Yes. Yeah, he's got the good fatherhood, the good parenting in him. He just doesn't have any resilience and tends to externalize blame. And it just is kind of creating a lot of these problems by trying to force his daughter into this incredibly stressful situation.
And he very obviously loves his daughter, which makes what he ultimately does so tragic, because even though it's absolutely monstrous, it was done out of a form of love, which is, again, the best villains, right? Yes. Like, malice is not that interesting.
Yeah.
This is a great moment for, just in terms of just being lyrical and, poetic to move through. It does a lot for me for making the story have kind of more layers.
Yeah, it is the moment when Feng Yu shines the brightest as, a decent person, right?
Yes.
Everything else is not very flattering, but this shared moment that like actually breaks style. We're not playing devotion when we are doing this. Is where you can see outside the frame that he had potential to be a very good father, and that heightens the tragedy. By contrast,
there's also just a sadness to this. The story that they're going through is a daughter who is going through the forest to find sacred water to make a seed grow that'll heal her sick father. So there's a role reversal there. So you get this contrast, right? Like, we get the daughter is, it's a child. It doesn't have a sophisticated thing, but it is wanting to do these altruistic things and ultimately is showing this dedication, it's through a story and everything, but symbolically showing this dedication to trying to heal her father.
Yes.
And you get to contrast what the daughter of the storybook does to heal a loved one versus what the father does.
Yes.
The storybook reality of this versus the monstrous real life thing of going and trying to find a magic solution.
Yes.
To stuff.
Yeah.
So just really, really deft shit.
The incredible artistry and the choices they make here.
Yeah.
But in the story, she goes past all of these woodland creatures and helps, figure out how to get beyond them. And then when she gets to the top of this tree, the sacred water there is all dried up. So the daughter goes back to her father, who tries to comfort her, but she sees through it. She knows that things are pretty bad, and she starts crying. And then kind of, just what she was told by this fertility goddess was, this flower will bloom when you put the most precious thing on it. She thought that the most precious thing was the sacred water. The dad knows that the most precious thing was his daughter, and her delicious, delicious tears.
Even then, there's like resonance.
Yeah.
Of the father ignoring the daughter in exchange for basically going and trying to find some sacred water. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't take the lesson of this story.
Right. Yeah.
You're very, very good.
Yeah.
They plant the tulip to thank the fertility goddess, and this creates a sea of tulips. And the father and daughter tend the field and are happy for the rest of their lives. And this we find an origami tulip in the back cover. Your daughter made this out of some of your discarded manuscripts.
Yeah.
We now have a fake tulip.
We do, and we know where we can go plant it.
Yep.
Yeah. So we leave the apartment, and there's a new article on the board. Friday Science Tip: melancholy is a precursor to anxiety. Sudden changes in living environment can exacerbate condition.
Thanks, Science Tips.
Yep. How relevant.
Yeah. In the hub, there's now a merry-go-round here with a letter to the school in the middle. Feng Yu insisting that Mei Xin's training is more important than school trips. There, her health and mental well-being is also of great importance.
It's as an afterthought.
Also, yeah. But basically saying she can't. I'm going to deny. He doesn't sign a permission slip,
right? Yeah,
because she can't risk her voice. I think is specifically cited.
There's a cold front coming up the coast.
And the merry-go-round kind of spins around you when you're here, and the dad mannequin appears in kind of a zoetrope, clapping and chanting here. Plum blossom, when will you bloom?
Yeah. And then that goes away, and we're back in the hub. We can go to 1980 and push the original the tulip, the origami tulip there, into the flower pot, and tulip grows, but it doesn't fully bloom just yet. It's going to take more time.
Yep. When we go to the hub, there's a floating window there showing a scene of Li Feng trying to calm her worried mom, your mother-in-law.
Yeah.
But still asking to come stay with you. And the mother-in-law is saying this happens, basically enabling this whole thing. Like, the mother-in-law is not doing great. It's just kind of this is me. Your father and I also had these issues.
Yeah.
Parents are bad in this. They ignore their kids.
Yeah. Well, the mother-in-law is playing into the social mores that keep everybody trapped in this horrible situation.
Yeah.
Right. So you open up the window to grab this letter that you see leaning against it, and whatever Li Feng is saying stops, and she says, "Oh, I think he's listening." It's like, oh, that's an abusive home situation if somebody cannot call their family without being monitored. But you grab the window or you grab the letter, and this letter lays out the stuff here, like, it would be best for you, for the chance for your daughter's chances at fame, if you stayed with Feng Yu and tried to make things work. You're retired, but gossip can still get around, and that can follow your daughter. It ends saying, "I know he can be stubborn sometimes, but you don't have to clash with him over every little thing. Let bedroom quarrels stay in the bedroom. Minor disputes can be taken care of civilly out of sight. Clashing with him over every little thing is not the problem here."
Yeah, no, not listening there. You go to the 1986 apartment and find that it's covered with these string lights. There's a much larger shrine now to Sigu Guanyin in the door now. And the TV broadcast of the singing contest loops with the judge praising the performance of both contestants, saying it's going to be difficult to choose a winner, and ends at a commercial break. One of the things that is very, I found confusing, is that there's like two scores you get in this contest. Like, you can be tied, but then there's a second score they go to.
Yeah,
I didn't really get what that was.
There are 7 stars, but then there's the more kind of detailed breakdown, which is where it ended up. Yeah,
it's like scaling and tribute scaling in Dark Souls or something. Like, it was, but there's a lot of time spent on that.
Yes. Yeah. The desk here has another Sigu Guanyin tale, Ascendance. So the goddess Sigu Guanyin noticed the black and white snake's noble sacrifice and chose him as her guardian. So this serpent would accompany her whenever she helped these mortals, meaning that the people who worship this fake goddess Sigu Guanyin, bringing the snakes into the equation.
Yes. Yeah. When you go into Mei Xin's room, there's an essay there saying that her dream is to be a child star. But she's sad that her parents are too busy to play, and says when she grows up, she's going to take them out and have fun all the time, which is heartbreaking. It's aw. And a scene starts here, another kind of marquee scene of you sitting on your desk, self-soothing. You're clicking marbles together as your parents are arguing. You're trying to concentrate on your homework, but the more they yell, the harder it is. You get these kind of photos of angry mouths flashing before you, and you have to click this button to click the marbles back and together in order to kind of self-soothe and calm yourself.
Yes. Yeah. As these math problems just mount in front of you, and like things will calm down, as you click these, but then they'll pick right back up again. Yep. Right.
You have to keep clicking.
Yeah.
The parents are arguing about money. Feng Yu doesn't want Li Feng to go back to work in the movies because she'll be wearing a revealing dress that'll make him a laughing stock.
Yeah.
Basically.
He's worried about how this will reflect on him.
Yes, because he's a bad person.
Yeah.
She yells and says, "You're deluded about your scripts. You're spending money on flashy things that we don't have the money for." True.
That camera, that absurd fish. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And then says like, you've been throwing all of our money at Sigu Guanyin. And he says like, if I didn't do that, Mei Xin would still be sick. Like the deity did it. And he rips her dress. And this is too much for Mei Xin. The fight has become physical. She passes out.
Yeah. And the ruined dress, this dress that you've seen in many of the portraits and photos, is now ripped, all ripped and cut up, and you find it hanging in the living room, so you can take it. It'll eventually be an ingredient in that terrible wine you're brewing.
Yeah, clothing wine, dress wine. Yeah. You put Lady of the Pier, the record, on the fancy record player in the master bedroom, and Mei Xin appears on the bed, singing along before she starts sobbing and clinging to a pillow. When you try to go forward to comfort her, she turns into scary demon kind of thing. Yeah. Turns scary and then disappears. There's a crown in her place, which we know is one of the ingredients for bad wine. The lights are now red in the room, and the record is now playing backwards.
Yeah. And all of those portraits that are on the wall, Li Feng's eyes are these bright red splotches in all the pictures. Yeah. Yep. And while the walls were, covered in childish doodles before when you walked in the hallway, it's now slathered in messy, bright paint. It looks, like a horrible thing happened here.
Yep. When you go to the living room, the talent show is advanced. The contestants got the same number of stars. The judge is going to read the scores, but it cuts off before that can happen.
Yeah. When you leave the apartment, the hub is now arranged like a small local pageant kind of deal. And Mei Xin's shoes are on the small stage surrounded by 7 judges' chairs. Each of them has an 8 on it. It's hard to analyze this without sounding like that guy from The Rehearsal who crashed his Scion TC at 100 miles per hour. But each of these chairs has an 8 on it. This has a meaning when we see the final scores, but 8 is supposed to be an incredibly lucky number. Like license plates with 88 on it are like auctioned off for tens of thousands of dollars.
Huh.
Yeah.
Weird. Numerology. A microphone swings in from above, and a red image of Mei Xin clutching her head and screaming in agony flashes before the stage disappears. The chairs all fall over. No. And we've got some new articles on the 1986 board. One is about Mei Xin's winning streak ending and her prospects looking bad. Which, like,
this 8-year-old has failed to impress me.
Extra. Like, what a scoop. I don't know, man. This makes pictures of Spider-Man look like front page news. And then also a gossip piece about Li Feng and Feng Yu's marriage being on the rocks. Yeah. So like we, here in our ivory tower Western perspective, we can look down on these cultural forces, that are causing this harm, this family, but it's not just the people internalizing it, it's external as well. Yeah. So like when I feel fine criticizing the stepmother for being like, no, keep those fights in private. But she was also within the culture that this game is criticizing. She was correct. Like not having those fights, putting those in public does mean it's like fucking in the newspaper. Yeah. Yeah. And the daughter not looking good for the daughter's talent show competition is just incredibly fucked up pageant shit.
Yeah, I mean, I've got no idea if that kind of show where kids are judged and their future is determined, if those were if those were especially popular at the time. One thing, for as terrible as reality television is, like, I think since Toddlers and Tiaras went off the air, like, reality TV over, at least Western American, has at least kept kids out of it.
Yeah. Yeah,
as far as I'm
Kid
aware,
Island or whatever that.
I love Kid Island.
Yeah.
that oral history is like a semi-regular read for me.
It's pretty good. It's really there shouldn't be fiction anymore, because
nope.
we just do incredibly fucked up things.
We're constantly.
Past it. We're so past it, and some of it is big monsterism, and some of it is just surreal fucking Kid Island monsterism. How many yeses went into Kid Island?
So many.
Yeah. Like, just our checks and balances system on everything has failed.
Yep.
There are no checks and nothing is balanced.
Oh my God. So we returned to 1985. And after we had planted those tulips, the hallway here, kind of leading up to the apartment, is overgrown with these tulips. And, we open the door, and instead of going into the apartment, we're in a long hallway that has even more. It's even more overgrown. And this is where we start hearing Mei Xin narrating her own journal here, talking about the day that her father gave her the storybook that we played through.
Yeah. Your father also taught her how to fold the tulips, make the origami tulips, and she breathed easier when she was making them. She was self-soothing. It's anxiety.
Yes.
The hallway ends at Mei Xin's bedroom, and it's totally full of tulips, totally tulip pilled. And there's a script on the bed. It's about the father at first being upset that the child has made the pages into flowers, but accepts it. These papers that were despised by the world were treasures in the eyes of a child.
Yes.
No.
Fine.
Yeah. Too little, too late, my man. There's this metal relief fragment under the script page. It shows the father. So this is one of the Resident Evil plates we have to use to get into the final thing.
Yes.
We leave this bedroom and the apartment is normal again. It's not a tulip hallway.
Right. So we can go into the kitchen here and put the red shoes, the dress, and the crown into the wine pot, saying like, oh, it'll take time to brew. It needs to appreciate. Yep. So we head over to a year later. We go to 1986, and the entry hall is now full of wine jars. And instead of the apartment, when we open the door, we go into this kind of winding, kind of curvy wine cellar hallway, where the walls are shelves with these wine things. And eventually we start seeing the black and white serpent. The tail shows up, and we're kind of walking along the body.
I hate that I have this association, but I can't shake it. Whenever I see like a snake going downstairs like that, I think of Beetlejuice. Yep. Beetlejuice turns into the black and white serpent and terrorizes the Dietzes.
Yep.
That's all I could think of was like, this shit's about to fucking pop off as Beetlejuice shows up.
Okay. Let me warm up so I can participate in the Deo.
There's gonna be some. Oh, that's why this got banned.
Beetlejuice is not. It's persona non grata.
Intellectual property, and Beetlejuice happened to show up. Okay, that makes more sense.
Okay, yeah. You need to pay the Beetlejuice people.
The Beetlejuice money doesn't grow on trees. I kept thinking it was Beetlejuice. So you head down these stairs as Mei Xin's narrating her diary, talking about how she starts overthinking when she's home alone and her symptoms come back.
Yeah.
And when that happens, her dad takes her to mentor Hugh.
Yeah. The hallway ends at this cistern that is full of blood/wine. There's a drop off, and we do not see the head of the snake. But this thing isn't moving. The thing is dead and drowned at the bottom of this.
Yes.
We look up at this door that is just opening into nothing here. That opens to the drop, and this male silhouette. This is you. This is Feng Yu, pushing Mei Xin into the room, and she drops and falls toward the wine and the snake body. And when she hits, there's this glass shattering sound, and it cuts away like right away.
Yep. We cut back to 1986, where the wine cauldron is dropped and shattered on the floor. And there's a script page on the floor where you read it. There's this very bleak scene where a mother makes her child promise to work hard and get famous so she can take care of her parents.
Mm-hmm.
The child says, "Thank you, mother. I promise I will not take your wish lightly. When I grow up, I will give back what is due and more. You will live a life of abundance. Imagine writing that and then imagine your kid finding it.
Uh-huh.
Like, good God.
Hey, your family fiction here?
Yeah. Stage direction. The wife is pleased. She believes the struggle and effort she poured into the past years will be worth it in the end. I love to treat a kid as an investment.
Yeah.
That pays off. Like, kids are basically NFTs. And if you put in enough investment, they'll pay off and give dividends.
Well, and like the wife here, he's putting the words into Li Fang's mouth as well. Yeah. Like, oh, she appreciates it, and she's not mad about all the hardship that we caused at all.
Yep, it'll all be worth it.
Yeah.
The TV plays more of the broadcast, and this is where we found out that Mei Xin loses. She got 88 points compared to 89 from the defending champion. 88 is considered very lucky, but was not lucky for Mei Xin.
No. Lost by 1 point. And
that's the end of you in this, like, whatever this like pageant culture thing is.
Yeah.
Like, the second best singer doesn't get to go do stuff.
Nope.
Like,
your Justin Guarini doesn't get the record deal.
Yeah. Your fate is sealed.
You will be forever a Justin. Yeah. But so losing by 1 point, we're going to see later, there's a scene where you're watching the performance. We find out that the Feng Yu never misses a replay of this. He just watches it over and over.
Yeah. Brutal.
Mm-hmm. So we take the fancy camera that we found and we go to 1980 and we put it up on this tripod here. And there's this scene where you are playing as Mei Xin sitting at the piano, playing a song for her dad as he takes a picture of her. It's his birthday.
Mm-hmm. When you return in 1986, there's a new picture in the album replacing the blurry one that was there before of Mei Xin playing the piano. And this one we can see the date.
Yes.
The 0716. Yep. Yeah. 0716. This is the combination for the wardrobe for the secret hiding place. When we enter the inn, we see a little stage made up of toys on the inside, and the camera moves us onto the stage, and suddenly we're Mei Xin as a baby, crawling around on a red carpet with a bunch of grab ceremony stuff hanging above you like it's a pendulum or a mobile.
Yes. Yeah. And the narrated diary talks about, Mei Xin chose this wardrobe as her hideout for when company comes over. She doesn't like talking to strangers or answering their questions, which kind of makes the life that her parents are forcing her into a special act of violence, very
relatable. Like, again, using your kid as a tool to show off is fucked up.
Yeah. And she's comfortable. Like, she feels like she's better on the stage, but she wishes, that all these contests could just be her alone in this closet, because she likes singing. It's just all the other stuff that's a problem.
Yep. We crawl past the swinging items and reach the stage with the microphone, where you stand up and there's only one person in the audience, your dad, cast in shadow. The diary talks about how, again, you sing better in the wardrobe, etc. And her dad in the audience demands to know why she won't sing as this is happening.
Yeah. And you're kicked back out into the bedroom, and the stage that was toys before is now just drawn on the back wall in crayon, like a kid would do when they were playing in making a closet for it.
Yeah. We pick up a script page about the birthday grab. A number of relatives say all the things that they wish for the child and touch her head as a token of luck and safety.
Yeah.
And this is where we get the metal plate for the child. There for a Resident Evil puzzle.
So we have all the pieces, and we can go to assemble them at the unlabeled door there. But you can't get close to the door. Every time you do, you are warped further back in a longer version of the hallway. Until eventually you are warped there, and now you are being chased by this ghost demon version of Li Fang.
Yes. Where you kind of go through an illogical space, going through closed doors till you reach an elevator that won't come. I could leave this. I don't care for this. Ghost Li Fang kind of groans and contorts towards you. It's very typical, but gets more human, as she's crawling towards you, gasping for breath. And by the time the elevator's closed, she's basically just your wife.
Yes. Yeah.
She's
Just reaching out for you, trying to get to you.
Yeah.
And as the elevator moves, we get this radio interview. The host is congratulating Li Feng on her return to the film industry, and and asks like, "Oh, did your husband have an opinion about this?" And she airs the dirty laundry. She says Feng Yu is enthralled by this cult. He was giving away every cent that we made. And taking our daughter there to this mentor whenever anything went wrong.
Yep.
And
he accused her of being possessed.
Yeah.
And said that she had to go make an offering. And she said, you know what? After I finish filming, I'm going to take my family out of that house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which ultimately it is just her going, and we see this happening. But that heartbreaking idea, like, oh, it's my family. We're going to leave. It's the house that's the problem.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
No.
And you get the sense, or I got the sense a little bit where, maybe she would have done that, at some point, but filming was still going on.
Yeah.
So, maybe she's being genuine here and was thinking that she could reconcile, but it ends up being a little bit too late.
Yeah. And we see, the elevator, opens, and we're back in this short hallway to the sealed door. And we get Li Feng talking to us from at the other end of it, saying that she longs for the days when the three of them were happier. And she walks into the elevator alone, holding a suitcase and the umbrella. And this is her leaving, making it out for herself and being unable to get Mei Shin away, which is fatal.
Yeah, departed wife guy. We place the plates. We get the third plate here. One for each member of the family, place them on the door and step through and enter the living room where the family portrait would have been, where we enter. And we're sitting on the couch to watch Mei Shin's performance. Mei Shin looks out from her bedroom door briefly before closing it. So this is, we find out again, he never misses it on repeats, which what a bleak repeat that is too. Let's go on TV. But just having to see her dad just watching her almost make it over and over and over.
Yeah. Horrible.
Awful.
Yeah.
Yep.
When you stand up, the walls disappear. Like this was supposed to be the flawless present, but it is, not. It's still hell. Yeah. And we walk over to the bedroom, and we hear Mei Shin asking, "Where'd mommy go?" And we're inside, and then suddenly the walls are covered with this, kind of like messy texture, and then it starts distorting. This feels like a move like exactly out of Anatomy. The way that it kind of like collapses polygonally, almost looking like a glitch.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a direct line there, but it is a good comparison to make because Anatomy rules.
Yeah, that is very good. We're in the tank again, and we walk towards Mei Shin there as where the fish, and the glass cracks. Then we are Mei Shin in bed, waking up unable to breathe.
Yeah,
she's having a panic attack. She's then over in a classroom full of identical kids, reciting there are three people in the family, doing these. So not only does she have this home life, she's forced to, in school, talk about your family because I don't know what else the kid's going to talk about. We're kind of in, this is almost like a montage.
Yeah.
This whole thing, it moves really quick here. Because we're zapping all over. That happens, and then we're at this table with her dad's there, and there's just a bowl of pills in front of her instead of food.
Yeah.
The piano keys are bloody. There are these cartoon characters floating in the air, talking to you.
Yeah. Now she's on a stage, and we see her face kind of like looming above the microphone with her eyes twitching, kind of a real Silent Hill 4 kind of imagery there. And then we see like FMV of the audience clapping, but then they distort into demons with hand-drawn faces, where their head should be. And this hand reaches out of the blackness to steady her by clasping on her hand. And when she looks up to see who it is, she looks into the mirror and sees her dad's face there with these sunken black pits where the eyes should be.
Yep. We're back to the father's body. When we look down, we see a paper recommending psychiatric treatment for Mei Shin, and Feng Yu tears it up, screaming, my daughter is not a lunatic. What's really tragic about this, so like this would be a tragic story if his daughter had an anxiety disorder. She doesn't. She just got this horrible fucking home life.
Yeah.
Like anyone would be, this is just a normal reaction. to this. Like, this could be a story about, I mean, there's a mental health element, like a therapy element, which would help her through this thing, but it's not a chemical thing. It's just this incredibly toxic home life and these pressures being put on her.
It's environment.
It's entirely environment.
And the treatment for anxiety, it's relatively routine. It doesn't involve being institutionalized, and even if it did, there would be no need, for shame to it. It's just this is, fate is sealed because of the determination of the culture that is within it. This thing that the doctor suggested is taboo. It's beyond the pale.
Yeah. Yep. So now we're sitting at our desk in a void, and Mentor Hugh calls on the phone. We haven't heard from Mentor Hugh in a while, really. Calls on the phone and says, "Hey, bring Mation to me. The rituals will work again." So when we're in this mystic void, hearing this chanting and seeing penitent people open hands, seeing penitent open hands traced in the air in front of you, kind of reaching out to you, and we hear chanting and percussive music.
Yeah. And when you turn around, there's a golden idol on this altar, kind of this bodhisattva idol. And there's a blindfold sitting there waiting for you. So you put it on.
Mentor Hugh asks if you can hear or see anything yet. And now that you're in this blindfolded section, seeing everything is in these negative highlights here. You're doing a ritual with your mentor here. And
a guided meditation thing.
Yeah, guided meditation. She guides you down this convoluted path of like alleys and sandbars and bridges until you reach this portion of hell where punishment is handed out for sins. Here.
And the complete lack of mercy as you're seeing these figures, just like a body of outlines, or a river of outlines of bodies. And this long corridor of people, cursed to hold heavy rocks above their heads forever, lest they be crushed. Mentor Hugh is saying, pay no attention to the souls under the bridge, ignore the suffering spirits. They were sinners in life. Kind of outlining this just bankrupt set of values.
Yeah, kind of the hypocrisy. You reach the tree of life, and there are papers fluttering around its empty branches. And you step into this crevice that's shaped like you. It was made for you. Inside is your inner self, this dank cave. And you need to find your way up a path of blood/wine, these fluttering pages that are there, and pen nib stalactites and stalagmites. So like imagine like an ink pen, a fountain pen.
Yeah. And you reach the entrance to your temple. And from here, you need to go on your own. You're not going to have Master Hugh's guidance for you. And she says, ignore anything that you see or hear. If you are overwhelmed, recite the mantra to Sigu Guanyin to drown it out.
Yeah. There's obviously a parallel there with the marble soothing.
Yes.
Right. So like, again, you play a monster in this, but you are also under a lot of pressure, both from your culture and from this huckster. And you are also doing a ritual to calm yourself down here.
Yeah. And so you get into this long hallway, walking alongside this long mirror. And as you do, you're looking over to your right, to your reflection, and instead of seeing yourself, there's this hand-drawn, leering face, and you're hearing a voice. It is, it is Fang Yu's voice, this other you talking to you, like, oh, this little power that you planted, and she watered with her own blood. Like, yes, it grew up, but a little flower is still going to be crushed.
Yeah, flowers don't get that tough.
Yeah,
you tell yourself that you wrote this story, as you go, you realize that, like, this is your story, and you directed this door at the end of the hall where your greatest hope awaits. And you step through, and we see all these Mation masks around us, Mation in these masks crowding you, making demands of you. Let me out. Why are you ignoring me? Pretty dark conception of what he could be, thinking before you know the twist.
Yes.
They did a really great job with this, because earlier she wanted to be let out because she was sick, and there's all this, like, she's the too big fish in the fish tank symbolism and stuff. But this is actually something much more literal and dark.
Yeah. Which is saying, open the door. Why are you ignoring me?
Yeah. She's not talking metaphorically, and she's not talking about when she was sick and couldn't go on trips.
No.
Yeah. So,
yeah. And so to send this away, you chant the, mantra to Sigu Guan Yin, and suddenly you are in this gigantic temple. And Mentor Hugh is back again, commending you on your faith for turning to the mantra to get through that and get to where she wanted you to go. This temple that is, the centerpiece, it is around this large bowl with a huge lotus blooming inside and a gigantic Bodhisattva Sigu Guan Yin kind of looming over you.
Yes. And we go to this series of platforms with these statues of Mei Xin holding up a tool.
And this is too much.
This is your thing. This is between this and Burial at Sea. It's fascinating to learn like what your sensitivities are. Like, I don't like, there's certain amounts of like self-vivisection that really bugs me. We're going to talk about it tomorrow when we do Abject Suffering. For some reason, video games, take whatever parts out of me you want. I don't know if Torment just trained me for it, but like, I don't know, man. I'm one of the fireys, like from Labyrinth. Just, I don't need 2 ears. Rip it off. This never affect. This doesn't touch my horror zone.
Not even the tongue.
Not even the tongue. Seeing it, yes. First person perspective, 100% neuters it for me.
Like the gagging and the retching and God, I was sympathy gagging on that, man.
It's something about a first person perspective. Like, I can't have mirror neurons if I'm like, it's like that Neil deGrasse Tyson, like, you can kiss yourself in a mirror, but only on the lips, that he tweets twice a year for the last 8 years. Like, one of my favorites, somebody quoting, like, where are you going with this, man? But he loves that little bit of truth there. For something like, if you put something like this in first person, it doesn't bug me. The Fontaine stuff in Burial at Sea didn't bug me. Doesn't bug me. I'll try. There's no flex like other things bug me, but this does not.
Yeah, I like this is harrowing to me. Yeah. So
maybe I'm just more bothered by world hunger. So.
Sorry, I forgot what a good person you are.
Gotcha. Got him.
I really, my silence is deafening.
Yeah, your silence on world hunger is deafening as you talk about. You can't talk about anything without talking about everything. On Twitter.
So you go up here, and this statue of Mei Xin is holding up this strange tool. It's like a little, like a blade, like a triangular blade here. And you pray to Sigu Guan Yin, saying like, "Oh, my daughter is caught in the cycle of karma. She has lost her sight. So I offer up my light to kind of break her out of this kind of dark spiral that she is in. And offering up your light, you get this prompt to use the mouse to stab the tool into your own right eye 3 times, and then once again to scoop it out.
Yes.
Leaving the right side of the screen temporarily a void. It'll fill in when you leave the platform. This is not
the eye goes back.
The left eye learns.
We didn't mention this, but you play as Wolverine or Logan Howlett in this. It really adds a lot of subtext. This is implied
to be metaphorical. It's a symbolic thing. It's not you actually doing it, but it is presented in horrifying detail with the sound and your voice in particular is just really
it's well done. It's like it definitely sells it. What's interesting about this is the metaphor has to be gruesome, and you can see it as a the con artist version of this religion that this villain has created, that Mentor Hugh has created, borrows that kind of like added gravity that comes with violence and gore that you also see in, say, like Catholicism.
Yeah.
That like if your right eye bothers you, pluck it from your head. Shit. Like there is it is this game is not necessarily making a comment about just religion as a whole so much as the things you do for faith.
Yeah.
But these rituals, that you're doing metaphorically are not that different than real life.
Right.
Rituals are real shit that's just in like very popular religions.
Yeah. Even if it's just present. Yeah. Like your Bible, even if it's just present, as a metaphor, Yeah.
Because it's a metaphor here. As well, like you're doing it here as just this little thing, but it's gory and extreme, and that's how you can tell it's real. The sacrifice will be really big,
It's the action Bible.
Yeah, I don't I don't know if that's my own bias against organized religion speaking, but I was picking that up from this.
Yeah.
Like, of course, it's super extra.
Of course, yeah, because sex sells.
Yeah. You go to the next platform. You take another tool with these two hooks, and you offer up your tongue. You rip that out, and it does go deep. Like one of those scary things that like tongues aren't just like, a couple inches long. They're big nightmare worms that live in your mouth.
No, it's attached, in your neck. Kind of down there. Well, okay. Specifically, what bothers me about this, it is not the cutting out of the tongue, right? Like that's fucked up and say like, like Seven with the sloth guy, like, we had to keep him from yelling, so cut his tongue out, right?
Yeah.
It is like the thing that bothers me specifically about this is the ripping and the fact that you just keep going until it cuts loose, and then just this gigantic thing comes out of you as you are gagging and retching. Yeah,
you're bleeding.
Yeah,
it's awful, absolutely awful. This stuff, and then you do the final platform for this prayer. From where your efforts began, so shall they end. Drew, you pick up the scissors and cut open your hand.
I made a wrong note about this. This is easy mode about this. You don't cut open your hand. You stab the scissors through the center of your left hand.
Yeah. Not still also though. I still think that's easy mode in comparison to the tongue and the eye.
Yeah.
This happens Ready or Not, and she seemed okay. This
Let's think about Ready or Not. She stays okay the entire time.
and she remains okay at the end. This gives Mation's soul wings.
Yeah. And as you're doing this, like a big holographic image of Mason takes form over there. You're trying to connect her soul back to her body in this realm.
Yeah.
And you say this one final prayer as the lotus bowl in the center overflows with blood/wine, and wine boys and such.
Yes.
And you're pounding your head against the floor, reciting this mantra. And Master Hugh says, as long as Sigu Guan Yin can feel your devotion, you'll be free from all suffering.
What if the subtitle for this game was Envoys, Wine Boys?
That'd be a pretty big spoiler. Yeah.
Yeah, it changed the tone a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
I know this is a joke other people have made, but I was thinking about this the other day. It came naturally to me. If you didn't know anything about what it was or what James Bond was, wouldn't the name Octopussy absolutely throw you? Like, we're going to go see Octopussy. Yeah, there's this movie called Octopussy. I got an Octopussy poster up in my room. Kids love Octopussy. Critics are raving about Octopussy. Like, you just feel like, holy shit.
I know about James Bond, and I know they pull the titles from the stories, but even to name the story Octopussy, like that's a terrible movie. But also name it something else.
It's real weird. Like whatever 9-legged super creature that this came from, it must be stopped.
I like the math. It checks out. Yeah.
You have pussy is equal to the number of legs you have -1. It's a simple formula.
So if a person loses their leg, then they lose their pussy. Okay.
My silence on is deafening. But yeah, it's just like, what a weird thing to just like talking about Octopussy. Like Leonard Maltin had to be like, no, Octopussy wasn't, and just like talk about Octopussy for 15 minutes. That's weird. It's so weird.
Yeah. What did that have to do with anything?
I just popped into my head. Well, God, it had to do something. I don't remember what. No, because you said Envoys, Wine Boys.
Oh, and you asked about the subtitle, and then talking about titles would be
like an incongruous.
Yes,
things. That's what I mean. It's not a good connection, but that was the walk my brain took.
Okay. You also want to justify telling the anecdote. I get it.
Well, it wasn't that calculating, I promise.
Okay. No, I didn't say that as an accusation. I was just saying, I get it. I do. Yeah, I've done similar. It's
I just something that popped into my head. And
So, did someone in the crowd mention bad underpants? Boy, have I got a story about bad underpants.
A Starbucks in Antarctica. So you say one final prayer as this lotus bowl overflows with wine blood, And you're told, as long as Sigu Yanyan can feel your devotion, you'll be free of all suffering.
Yes.
And you kneel, recite the mantra, and start pounding your head into the floor.
Yeah. And you wake up in this new apartment, one that you haven't seen before, doing the head pounding thing here.
Yeah.
You're in front of a very large shrine, an altar to Sigu Guanyin. And you look around, this place is a dump. Like a lot of furniture is missing. It's obviously been turned over, like turned over like a cell, like, ransacked. It's Mentor Hugh's place. Upstairs in your building. The bowl in front of you is empty. There's no blood or eyes or tongue there. Mentor Hugh has skipped town.
Yep. To kill again.
Yeah.
We get to see the flyer that first led you to this. That taught you about this. In the kitchen, you find a note of a ritual consultation you were given, describing a wine bath. The steps, placing the spirit serpent inside. The invoker offers up his blood for the container, his soul for a soul. Place the subject in the container. The subject
gets a yikes from me.
Yeah, that's and there's a check next to every item on the list there, except for the last one, where the subject leaves the container and kneels to pray. And then just you find there's this tape of recorded consultations, so I didn't take this as recorded consultations.
It's called taped consultations. This is her record. Well, she records all of them probably for blackmail, but she is recording like these specifically are to have evidence that people hurt her. Like she's having it here. So like this is people coming to her and chewing her out for like why this shit isn't working. Like my grandpa gave up chemotherapy because of you.
Yeah.
Real shit that happens. When my mom got breast cancer, okay.
Yeah.
I had this friend who said, "Hey, this is going to help you," and gave her the book The Secret. It happens. Yeah. Thankfully, my mom said, "Yeah, it's bullshit. So I'm gonna go do chemo."
But at the very least, do both.
Yeah.
Porque no las dos.
Yeah.
This stuff wouldn't be as harmful with this specifically would, but a lot of the stuff wouldn't be harmful if you did it with medicine or with therapy.
I'm gonna say, I think the wine
just
bath
yelling into the bathroom like at a bloated corpse girl, like probably wouldn't have helped.
Yeah.
That's what the difference.
Adding Xanax to the wine bath probably would exacerbate the situation.
Well, she's a kid, it's not gonna, you got to do like chewables or whatever. But this also kind of, I don't think this was intended, but my first instinct was these were voicemail messages.
Okay.
After she had skipped town, like people coming to complain, which I don't think was intended, but I think if it was, or whether it was or not, kind of lends to the modernity of this, like this being an ongoing concern. Like you could also find somebody's answering machine or check their voicemail and have a lot of people who are seeking justice after a con person flew the coop.
Yes. Yeah. It works either way. Yeah.
Yeah. Awful though, like just awful shit. And does the work of showing like, actually this stuff really happens. It happens lots of ways.
Yeah.
So the writing has been on the wall for a long time, but you still got to face the music, like all like good psychological horror, Silent Hill 2 likes.
You gotta walk your hallway.
Yep, got to do it. So you leave and go downstairs down this long hallway back to the apartment. And while this is happening, we hear a phone call from Master Hugh explaining how you should, that you should prepare the tub of snake wine formation in the tub. Don't worry, stay strong and prove your devotion.
Yeah. There's a second call. You call, Feng Yu calls saying like, "Hey, she's still screaming. She's not getting out and praying. What do I do?" And, Hugh says, don't worry. This is to be expected. This could take up to 7 days. Yeah. You have to have faith in Mei Xin and not open that door.
Yep. And the third call, the number is disconnected. Where Mentor Hugh, not to, you don't got to hand it to her by any means. The way that she fucked up, though, was by shitting where she eats.
Yeah.
If she had not done this with somebody in her building, she probably would not have to cut and run.
Right.
But the fact that the third time it's disconnected, like she, not only was she being hounded by other people she had scammed, like she knew how this was going to end.
You got to know when to pull up and go to the next town. Yeah.
Yeah. She's helped little girls in Haber, North Ogdenville. Haber, put them on the map. Yeah, just, again, fucking awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. The we know what happened. The rest of the stuff that happens in the game is pretty metaphorical. It's worth camping out on the literal thing for a little bit. And again, my mirror neurons getting activated, like your father being like, this will make you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Putting you in here, and time goes by, right? Like, you're there for an hour, you're there for 8 hours, you're there for a day, you're there for 2 days. And, she definitely drown eventually, but, if you bathe in alcohol, you will get alcohol poisoning. Like you will get drunk.
Yeah.
Probably part of the intended effect from Enter Hugh.
Yeah.
Like this being a mood changing thing that just kind of backfired because kids should not be drunk.
Their lightweights is the thing. They don't know what to do with it. Yeah.
I can drink most kids under the table. But just how scary would that be?
Oh my God.
Like
awful.
7 days, like it absolutely fucking breaks my heart. And then even, you don't have to hand it to him, but the dad, who is victim and victimizer, hearing his daughter call for help, not letting her out because he thinks this is for the greater good. Like as a parent, and I'm not a parent, but I understand that you do have to do things that kids don't like to help them because you know better. You can literally patronize a child. You are their patron.
Yes.
Pocket doesn't want to go to the vet. I still have to take him. He gives me the big hurt eyes. He gets cranky at me. It hurts me, but I know it's what I have to do to keep him safe. If I had been so thoroughly brain fucked by a scam artist and culture that made me think I had to hurt him to help him, like the altruism is the spice that makes this absolutely knock my guts out.
Yeah.
The idea that just, and like there's a sunk cost, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like of just like, it's been this long, if I opened that door and let her out and nothing happened, this was all for nothing.
I have to admit that I threw it away.
Yep. Yeah. My wife left because of this. I threw all this money away. I've been scammed. I'm not an idiot. I don't get scammed. I partake in the Dunning-Kruger effect. Other people get scammed. Not me, though. Like, there's just so much humanity on display in this really extra thing. Yeah. And the remarkable thing about Devotion as a plot, moving aside the artistry of how it's told, is that it earns that extraness. Like a single sentence story of like, oh, a dad gets fooled by a faith healer to drown his daughter in wine.
Well, why would you do that? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it sounds big, but this game, it shows all of its work. Like nothing feels unearned. Nothing feels undersold.
Yeah.
All of the only issues I have with any of this are mechanical. It's a couple too many jump scares, a little bit too much wandering back and forth. Yeah. Narratively, I think this is impeccable. Yeah. It's not, the best. Like I've played as good or better game stories, I can't put this on like, how do you compare something like this to a Disco Elysium, but difficult. In terms of just being, like it's up there. Yeah, it is a really phenomenal. And I would also like, in terms of just narrative, the fact that it's short and shows all of its work and there aren't a lot of extraneous elements to the narrative makes it feel extremely clean to me. Yes. So like, I love Silent Hill 2. Not as much as you, not as much as some people, but I love that game. That game's great. Narratively, I think this does a better job. And the reason being is just a slightly narrower scope. Yeah. Like there's less chaff.
It's sanded. Yeah.
Yes.
Like
sanded,
the stuff
like absolutely polished, like rock tumbled to perfection.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about the narrative of this game.
Yeah. And just God, I get wrapped around just the tragedy of it,
Yeah.
And it's something for me. I've known about this. I think I played this game like 2-3 years ago. Time is meaningless, but I still get affected by it. Like it's still, it has just gotten better in my estimation as I've thought about it, considered it, experienced it again for the second time. Talked through every detail or most every detail here. It really is this perfect little machine to make you feel like absolute dog shit.
Yeah. Which we are fuck up-a-doos who want that more than anything.
Yep.
And that's just, who we are, and that's fine. The way that I feel like dog shit in this is that it's a profound feeling of dog shit.
Yeah.
It's even more than like tisking me as a player. Like I can experience this on the same way I would experience a story. Like the active participation that I have of this is additive, but it's not like a Spec Ops or whatever, like where I did a bad thing. It's more, there's a really bad thing that exists in humanity that is highly exploitable and is exploited and, is everywhere.
Yeah.
Like it shows, instead of it being about a specific thing that I did as the player, and I like stuff like that. I don't turn my nose up at a game tisking me for doing bad game stuff.
Yeah.
This is a different, more literary track than that.
Yeah. The lack of interactiveness, the lack of interactivity in this, feels consonant with everything about the story, because, this kind of was fated to happen by the flaws of the individuals here, by the flaw in the culture, by the exploitation, just the fact that this person fell into the trap that Master Hugh kind of set for him. And the stubbornness, like a tragedy, is a story that proceeds inexorably towards a horrible end. And you see every step of the way that is going to a terrible thing. This is linear and it's on a track, but the track that is laid there is entirely justified by everything that by every element that is there. And I, as the player, am not being chastised for daring to play this game and march this person down the track. I as a player am more just the fate that is moving you ever closer to this horrible end and this revelation, right?
Or just I'm reading a story about a thing that has happened.
Well, yeah,
like there's a weird counter synergy with this, with being a game. Like it is very useful that you're exploring it, and games do better for exploring spaces as a storytelling thing than other mediums. But I think that there's no condemnation of me, the player, for allowing this to happen is actually greatly additive to this specific thing. It feels more novelistic.
Yes.
In that way.
Yeah. So and any of the deaths that Mei Shin could have suffered here are, just the worst possible things imaginable. And there are ones that you don't even consider, like hypothermia, malnutrition, dehydration, Yeah.
And then the last little bit of the game is just twisting the knife a bunch, which we're going to talk through. It's not like it's bad. It's just like by this point, in playing, I was in a real shell shock kind of mode. So some of this stuff didn't land as hard because I was already reeling. It feels like there should be like a mandatory 2-hour break here, or something. Like go lay down.
You need to take some time for yourself, bud.
Yeah.
But yeah, we open up the door to the 1987 apartment and it's a mess. There are books and stains everywhere. This place is, this house is fallen into disrepair, reflecting the family itself, right? The doodle of the family is there on the coffee table. We're kind of back at the beginning here. There's only one place to go, the site where we know this terrible thing had happened. And we go to the bathroom door and we open it. And instead of revealing the true horror that would be waiting for you there as a parent who has waited the 7 days, when the screaming stopped long ago, right?
Yep.
Instead, we go into this pure white void. This ends this ends with denial. You literally do not see the results of your actions. You walk into this idealized paradise that, you are led to believe that Mei Xin will be going to. This is, I read this as just a profound denial.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what I read this as. There's those stalwart champions at TV Tropes. There are some people in the who are talking about this game who see this as this is the only word that comes forward, but it's laughable. See it as like a happy ending or an optimistic ending because of what happens here.
No.
I don't necessarily. Yeah, it's definitely obviously not that's laughable on its face. I don't necessarily know that your character is still denying things because the way that the game is presenting information to you is so chock-a-block with metaphor and such, and not everything that's being presented to you in the game, like much of it is through the lens of your character's point of view, but not everything. You jump through points of views and such. So this to me could be. I don't necessarily take it as such. It could be as such. This to me feels like knife, like I said before, knife twisting.
Yeah. I also am not saying show the body, you cowards. I don't want to see a dead kid. just so people do not misunderstand me on that.
Yeah. You thought you were going to be able to see a real cool wine. You think you're going to see a real tragic soup.
Yeah.
Where's the tragedy stew?
Yeah.
God damn it. It was in the Steam tags. Didn't he less?
And where's Spider-Man? I wanted to see some May Alvine.
But it's this white void. The floor is wet, and there's a single tulip on the ground, and we're hearing from Mei Xin's diary again, her last diary entry. She misses her mom. Her breathing troubles have started back up, but her dad doesn't take her to the doctor. He takes her to Mentor Hugh. She discovered by folding tulips that makes her feel better, and soon her room will just be full of them. She thinks if she folds enough, she'll be better. But her dad is too busy praying to join her in doing this.
Yeah, so he's traded the writing for the praying.
Yep. Yeah.
She just wants to get better and sing on TV for her parents. She wants to have fun in the living room again. She misses those days, and that's where it ends with her mourning what's gone.
Yep. Bad way to end.
Yeah. And we lose control of the camera as it moves down this path of tulips while a song plays. There is something about the lyrics not being in English that makes the lyrical song not feel cringy to me.
100%. Like if this had just been, and we see the lyrics, there are subtitles for it. And I was imagining this being sung by like a Celine Dion type and feeling cringed. Like I understand people love that stuff. It is poison to me. Here it is fine. Like I wasn't like, hell yes, there's a vocal song at the end, but it didn't feel like poison.
There's a moment when this crescendos, like when the song peaks, where I lose it, not because of the subject matter of it, but because of the full presentation of what had just happened, but also the kind of like overload of the imagery here and the music itself working together. Still processing what happened, because the camera's moving down this path of the origami tulips, and we see some pinwheels. Representative, dead children. Maybe that's something you would put on the graves there. And we see these piles of books, kind of arranged like a little town, traditional buildings and stuff.
Yeah. Then you walk into a forest as Mei Xin walks down this path away from you. She runs as the camera moves faster until she disappears into the light. You then approach a playground. Mei Xin is playing in the sand by an elephant slide. She stands up, looks over her shoulder, and then the screen fades to gray and then to black and says, "Daddy, let's go home." Something she didn't do. Also,
she didn't get to play. Yeah.
A version of, a heaven, for this young girl
that you envision as the dad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also, if in the cosmology, like that's not necessarily denial. If in the cosmology of this game there's a heaven, we shouldn't probably go there. She didn't do that much wrong. I guess we haven't played the origin story where like she gets fully Joker-fied and stuff. But The
whenever she went outside, she was torturing dogs and cats like crazy.
That's I guess maybe that's part of Mom doesn't let me go outside anymore. It's all rough chuckles because this is sad shit. I guess when you said denial, more than denial, I could see this as like self-soothing again.
Yeah,
like not denial, just like my daughter's in heaven.
Yeah,
you know, which isn't as odious to me as like my daughter's in a cured from this disease. Like it could also be my daughter's dead, but believing in an afterlife is not automatic huckster cringe to me, I guess.
Sure, Tom Cruise Heidecker's dead, but at least he wasn't vaccinated.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't think of that as denial. I just think of it as, I guess, commitment to the bit. If I'm giving this the least charitable read possible, and I am not, I think that I am not very inclined to extend Feng-Yu a certain amount of a lot of charity, but like the uncharitable read is this is him telling himself, well, she died in the worst way possible, but at least she gets to be in a better place. And the unspoken part of that sentence is I sent her there. I don't know whether I see I think that there are too many depression and self-hatred signifiers in the apartment to have him let himself off the hook at all.
Yeah.
I don't read him as, and also he just went through a psychological, illogical space guilt storm. He just went through a psychological horror game. Like he's feeling guilty.
Sorry, I can't talk. I've got a psychological horror game going on.
Yeah, I'm in a Silent Hill 2 scenario. I'm at a carnival that represents my dead daughter's funeral. Metaphorically, though, you see.
Yes.
And then the other thing that makes me think he's not happy is after the credits, he's in the empty apartment, watching a static on TV. And watching static on TV, like that's never a sign of doing great.
He's doing good.
He's doing good. He just, we'll see what's on the static channel. And that's Devotion.
Truly one of the most remarkable games I've played in the past, 5 years, let's say.
Yeah, it's very good. It's what I think that it reining in its scope while not compromising anything, I think is really, really strong.
Yeah.
Sometimes with things that psychological horror that gets real heavy into metaphor territory, I feel like there can be an urge of like, fuck it, throw it in.
Yeah.
Like this is about this guy, but also it's about this. And also it's about this, but those extra things aren't given shrift.
Yeah.
And for some folk, I understand the appeal of just like, oh man, it's really rich. There are a lot of ingredients in this, but if none of them get to sing, or if they're not additive to the character, I don't appreciate a mess for a mess's sake.
Yeah.
This is not a mess. It's a complicated narrative. The characters are complicated. These are complicated human motivations, a complicated tragedy. It's not a mess. Yeah. It's very neat. The way this all puts together. Like there's not a frame in this other than some of the shitty jump scares and stuff that don't feel like, and even those arguably have psychological weight to them. But there's not wasted elements of this. Like it all adds to the tragedy and the characters that allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
And perpetrated it. Great shit.
Powerful.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, I'm happy that I'm happy to bring this to the show, and I'm glad you dug it.
Yeah, it's great. It's super good. It's my favorite game that we're doing this month. Like I like Evil Within 2 a lot, but this is next level shit.
Yeah, this is kind of singular.
Yeah, really, really good. And it's been a while since we've done just such an unqualified win.
Yeah,
what was the last time we did something that was like that? Where it's just like, fuck, man, like. It's been a minute.
I mean, it's probably been a while. Yeah.
I'm probably Carrion. I
was going to say.
Like, I don't know. We're a little hard on that, but it has a lot of thematic depth to it.
How's your how's your head feeling? You got any bumps there? Hey, Garrett, did a coconut fall on you?
I am getting hungry. But yeah, it's, I don't know that it's necessarily been since Disco Elysium, but like since we've done a game that is narratively, pretty flawless.
Yeah.
Like pretty airtight. Been a minute.
It's in the pantheon. Yeah.
Yeah, in the Pantheon, 100%. If you have things to say about Devotion or Strangeland or The Evil Within 2, please send us a message at Duckfeed.tv/contact. Go to that website by the 15th of October.
Please. If you have thoughts about multiple games, please write multiple responses. That makes my job easier/possible. So I don't have to disentangle them. We talk about each game's responses individually. If you have thoughts about November's games, which are Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, Super Hot, the third one, Half-Life Alyx.
Yes.
Then the deadline for that is November the 15th.
Yeah. If you are a non-straight white cis dude and you have a project you'd like us to highlight, please send me an email at gary@Duckfeed.tv. This month, I want to hype up Deadeye Deepfake Simulacrum, which is a game you can wishlist on Steam right now, made by Sam. And this is a top-down immersive sim kind of thing in the future. It sounds really cool. You get a bunch of different abilities to solve problems with. Looks real neat.
I agree. It does look neat. Oh, and there's a demo. There's a demo available too.
There's a demo. It's going to appear on the Steam Next Festival from October 3rd to 10th. And there'll be some live streams as well going on.
Neat.
Yeah. So that is Deadeye Deepfake Simulacrum. And if you would like to have something highlighted here, just send me an email.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. And it releases on October the 13th as well.
Yes. Yeah. If you like our show, go to patreon.com/DuckFeedTV. And $5 a month gets you all the premium episodes of WAF, as well as a bunch of bonus shows. You can also leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Podcast Addict, wherever reviews are found. Specifically, you should do so for our new show.
Please. Best Quality Vacuum, our show about Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and El Camino, the Breaking Bad-averse, Gilligan-averse, ABQ-averse, any of those. We are that has started. The initial response has been good, and not just started, but charted. It's been a while since I have paid any attention to that, but with a new show, you want to check it out. And seems like we're doing okay, and we can continue doing okay if you give a listen, leave a positive rating or review. That helps us on those charts.
Yeah. As of now, we've only done the episode 0, so just kind of talking about the background and everything, but we're going to get into it presently, basically.
Yes.
So starting very soon. We'd appreciate that. Until next time, what should they do, Cole?
Watch out for Master Hugh or Mentor Hugh.
Yeah. Or Mentor Hugh's sinister Master Hugh.
No. It's her ascended form.
He just opens a door and there's just like a row of infinite bathtubs. It's her MO.
Get in.